I'm sorry. I need to get something to eat. I got a tomato. I also have a dog nose. You want a piece of tomato, buddy? Yeah? High five. Uncle. Boop. You can't have my sausage and my egg too, you greedy fuck. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. You're very cute. Yes, you are very cute. Yes, you are very cute. Everybody wanted to say hi to you. Want a piece of sausage? Want a piece of sausage? You speak? Oh, good boy. You whisper? Whisper? No, shh. Whisper. Whisper. No. Whisper. Good boy. There you go. Yeah, you got a good thinking. Okay, here, you can have the rest of the plate. You can have it over there, though. Alright. I apologize for the delay. But I figured it would also be a good idea to have a little bit of puck time before things get bad and terrible. So that we hate them all, you know what I mean? Alright. He's good. Pretty good now. Good to go. Are you done? Hi. Yeah, I don't have anything else. It's all gone. I got nothing. Okay, goodbye. He's like, oh, you don't have any food anymore? Okay, later. Alright, yeah, no, I mistimed. For some reason, my little piece of sausage took way longer to cook than I thought it was going to. And, like, the ends didn't want to cook properly, or whatever the fuck was going on. Anyway, who cares? It doesn't matter. Point being, let's get down to business. Let's get down to business to defeat the Trump. Alright, where were we? We were at 5, right? I believe we are at chapter 5. Which I believe is like 158 or something. Well, a little bit further than that. Oh, it was pretty close. It was like 162 or something. Oh, a little further. Ah, yeah, there we go. Department of Homeland Security. Ooh, yippee. I hope you guys have had a good week so far. It's Wednesday, right? I'm pretty sure it's Wednesday. Hopefully, I might actually get the opportunity to play some Dungeons and Dragons, of which I am the DM for. So we'll see how that goes. Is this way? No, that's this way. There we go. There we go. Huzzah! Yes, also Puck is the one true leader. If you happen to have a membership, there are Puck emojis, and you can feel free to spam the fuck out of those. I still need to get okay. I'm committing to it today. I'll get the emoji wall back up. I don't know if it works for YouTube, but I'm gonna get that damn emoji wall back up, because fuck me. If you are a member, not only do you get access to prior live streams and videos. Is my shirt on inside out? We're not going to talk about that. I'm a mess of a person. Oh. Alright, what was I saying? Yes, you get emojis, enjoy your emojis. Some of them are a little bit risque, and if you know, you know, kind of thing. And if you don't, some of them are in-jokes. And some of them are just cute little dumpster fires. you get access to members only streams, like backlog VODs of like either me doing like a look everything up kind of stream and like follow around to see what the fuck was actually going on with this thing when we're talking about like lolcow or whatever, or art stuff, and like we have all kinds of conversations during the art stream, so we're talking about all kinds of shit. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, feel free to join us. It's a very good thing to kind of put on while you're doing other stuff, so that all exists. One a week will go public the following week. So you still get access to one, but if you want access to all of them, it's like $1, by the way. My membership is super fucking low. It costs you can adopt a goblin for less than the amount of a cup of coffee at your local coffee shop. It's even like less expensive than like bad coffee. You didn't notice until you. I know, right? Oh my god. Me and Alicia, same page. Same page. Alright. I'm sorry I'm late. Are you guys ready to get into this? I don't want to waste your guys' time since I'm already starting a little bit late. So, Department of Homeland Security, Ken Cuccinelli. Primary recommendation. Well, the format for each one of these chapters is different, and it makes me cringe out of my mind. Oh, and don't forget our drinking rules. If you see a period but, period and, period because, or you see and but or because beginning a paragraph, take a drink. Take a drink for Ronald Reagan and take a drink for Richard Nixon. Our primary recommendation is that the president pursue legislation to dismantle the Department of Homeland Security, DHS. Do you guys think that's a good idea? I guess they're going to explain why they think it's a good. I mean, to be fair, they haven't explained dick shit through this entire thing so far, so maybe I'm overthinking this. After 20 years, it is not gelled into one DHS. Instead, its various components, different missions, have outweighed its decade-long attempt to function as one department, rendering the whole disjointed rather than cohesive. Breaking up the department along its mission lines would facilitate mission focus and provide opportunities to reduce overhead and achieve more limited government. In lieu of a status quo DHS, we recommend that U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, be combined with Immigrant and Custom Enforcement, ICE, or ICE, U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS, the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, and the Department of Justice, DOJ, the Executive Office for Immigration Review, EOIR, and Office of Immigration Litigation, OIL, or OIL, into a standalone border and immigration agency at the cabinet level. More than 100,000 employees make it the third largest department measured by manpower. Okay, alright, I feel like it's probably not a good idea to merge the Department of Justice with the Immigration Office. That just seems like a bad idea to me. Cybersecurity, Puckett did already eat today. He didn't even finish his food. That's like, he got a lot. I might have given him too much food this morning. Lurking. Enjoy your lurk, because this is nonsense. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Agency, CISA, be moved to the Department of Transportation. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, FEMA, be moved to the Department of the Interior, or, if combined with CISA, to the Department of Transportation. The U.S. Coast Guard, USCG, be moved to the DOJ, and in time of full-scale war, i.e. threatening the homeland, to the Department of Defense, the DoD. Alternatively, USCG should be moved to DoD for all purposes. U.S. Secret Service, or USSS, be divided in two, with protective element moved to DOJ and financial enforcement element be moved into the Department of Treasury. Yeah, the problem when you start to separate things like these, it means that the people in the financial area are isolated from the actual needs of the IRL people on the ground. This is like having your if you're running a business and you have your financial department or your sales department completely isolated from like the shop floor, wherever whatever you're selling gets built. So if your salespeople, your sales representatives, don't know how much a machine can pump out, they're going to oversell in a shorter amount of time than it's possible for the workers to and the machine to pump out the parts, right? And that becomes a really big logistical problem and can end up getting very, very expensive, right? Because you end up paying overtime, you end up having to hire more people, you end up having to buy another machine, and then it turns into like this really toxic cycle just because the salespeople aren't given very pertinent information. And when I say like, oh, and then they end up responding with things like, oh, well, just work harder. And it's like, I can't work any harder. The machine can only do so many rotations. I can only make 40 parts in an hour at max capacity. And I'm already pushing this machine because it's only supposed to really make 32 parts in an hour. It's like, oh, just overclock it. And it's like, well, then you destroy your machine. You're no longer doing scheduled preventative maintenance on the machine. The machine falls apart. You put it in the machine graveyard. Then you're scrapping it for parts to try and save other machines. Like, it turns into like a toxic nightmare shit show. And that's what these people are going to do to the government, because you don't, that's if you run a business poorly. And based on like all of these people's descriptions, they're exactly the type of people that run a business poorly. You know what I mean? These are the people that, like, or you guys remember a show that existed once upon a time? It was called like Bad Boss or whatever. I don't remember what it was called, but it would they would take like the CEO of a company and then they would go work like the entry level floor machining job. And they could never do it. They could never do it, let alone like do it remotely at the rate that they demand the worker do it at. And they're like, this is impossible. They always end up quitting. I worked at a place where the lady who owned it did that. It was fucking hilarious. That poor woman had like a breakdown. Anyway, Undercover Boss. Yeah. Undercover Boss. That was it. Yeah, Horrible Boss. Yeah. You guys know what I'm talking about. Undercover Bosses. You got it. Fuck, so funny, man. These are these people. The Transportation Security Administration, TSA, be privatized. Well, you're going to privatize the TSA as if the TSA isn't enough of a fucking issue and a problematic and ineffective. Like, good lord, you're going to privatize it. Oh, sure, okay. You know, once upon a time, Canadians could just travel to America with a driver's license. And if you were underage, you didn't even need identification. You could just go across the border. That was a thing. That existed. That happened. You could go back and forth. Americans could just come into Canada, and Canadians could just go into America. And like all you needed was like a regular piece. Like if it still existed, I'd be able to go across with a health card, because health cards have pictures on them now for Canadians. Fucking hilarious. The Science and Technology Directorate, S&T, be moved to the DoD, and the Office of Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction be moved to the FBI. All of the remaining supporting components could be dismantled because their functions already exist in the moving components as well as the receiving departments. Cutting these costs would save American taxpayers significant sums. Unless and until this dismantling recommendation is pursued and achieved, however, the DHS will statutorily continue to exist, and it needs many reforms. Accordingly, we now turn to recommended changes in the DHS as it exists now. Okay, but building in redundancy is useful and important. Mission statement. I'm on you. Mission statement. Why are you up already? Go to bed. The Department of Homeland Security protects the American homeland from and prepares for terrorism and other hazards in both physical and cyber realms, provides for secure and free movement of trade and travel, and enforces U.S. immigration laws impartially. Overview. The Department of Homeland Security, DHS, was created in the aftermath of terrorist attack of September 11, 2001, and subsequent mailings of anthrax spores. The Homeland Security Act of 2002 which created the department, states that the DHS primary mission is to prevent terrorist attacks within the United States, reduce the nation's vulnerability to terrorism, minimize the damage from and assist in the recovery from any terrorist attack, prepare and respond to natural and man-made crises and emergencies, and monitor connections between illegal drug trafficking and terrorism, coordinate efforts to sever such connections, and interdict illegal drug trafficking. Unfortunately for our nation, the federal government's newest department became, like every other federal agency, bloated, bureaucratic, and expensive. I mean, there was a lot of problems with the DHS, and a lot of issues with, like, the acts that were put forward that let the American government, like, spy on its people a shitload and, like, way overreached. So I can agree with that. It also lost sight of its mission priorities. DHS has also suffered from the left's wokeness and weaponization against Americans whom the left perceive as its political opponents. This is new rhetoric, by the way. Like, this wasn't something that was said about, like, Obama. This is only stuff that is being said about, like, this is ridiculous. To truly secure the homeland and a conservative administration needs to return the department to its right mission, the right size, and the right budget. This would include reorganizing the department and shifting significant resources away from several supporting components to the essential operational components, prioritizing border security and immigration enforcement, including detention and deportation. Is critical if we are to regain control of the border, repair the historic damage. This is such a run-on sentence, oh my god. Repair the historic damage done by the Biden administration. Return to a lawful and orderly immigration system. What about the immigration system isn't orderly right now? And protect the homeland from terrorism and public safety threats. This also includes consolidating the pieces of fragmented immigration system into one agency to fulfill the mission more efficiently. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, as the DHS component that the left has weaponized to censor speech and affect elections at the expense of securing the cyber domain and critical infrastructure, which are threatened daily. A conservative administration should return CISA to its statutory and important but narrow mission. Yes, free speech. Here we go. My Unfinished Journey for 666 said, "Hail Nero, hail the Goblin, hail shedding light on cockroaches, meowing and mowing, meowing. Oh my God, mowing and laundry day. So use all your socks to like and share." Thank you so much. I appreciate that. You put in a lot of work, and you're doing God's work, truly. The bloated DHS bureaucracy and budget, along with the wrong priorities, provide real opportunities for a conservative administration to cut billions in spending and limit government's role in American lives. These opportunities include privatizing TSA screening and the Federal Agency Management Agency, FEMA, FEMA, National Flood Insurance Program, reforming FEMA emergency spending to shift the majority of preparedness and response costs to state and localities instead of the federal government. So anything that the states have for federal government protections against, flood insurance and, wildfires, anything like that, is going to be removed from the federal government and shifted back to the states. Does that mean you're going to take less taxes from the states to ensure that money is going where it needs to be? You need a magnifying glass to see me? I'm small. I'll be tiny. But you're hilarious. You're great. Keep doing what you're doing. Blah blah blah. Where was I? Preparedness, eliminating most of the DHS grant programs, and removing all unions in the Department for National Security purposes. Removing all the unions. Yeah, okay. Not surprised. You gotta just slip that shit in there, right? A successful DHS would secure and control the border thoroughly. Didn't they say they whatever? Thoroughly enforce immigration laws, correctly and efficiently adjudicate immigration benefit applications, while rejecting fraudulent claims, secure the cyber domain, and collaborate with critical infrastructure sectors to maintain their security, provide states and localities with a limited federal emergency response and preparedness. Why wouldn't you want your federal emergency response, like, thorough? Like, why would you want it limited? That doesn't make sense to me. Maybe it's just because, like, there's been recent fires in Jacksonville in Alberta that the Conservative Party in Alberta fucked up so badly, and caused so much damage that Trudeau and the federal, like, the Liberal federal government had to step in and, like, fix everything and, like beyond, because they basically refused to ask for the help that they needed after they fucked everything up, until Trudeau finally just went, okay, fine, fuck you, Emergency Act. You're not gonna do anything, I'm doing it. Secure our coasts and economic zones, protect political leaders, their families, and visiting heads of state or government, and oversee transportation security. Office of the Secretary, or SEC, in the next administration, the Office of the Secretary should take on the following low-key issues and challenges to ensure the effective operations of DHS. Expansion and dedicated political personnel. This Secretary of Homeland Security. The Secretary of Homeland Security is a presidentially appointed and Senate-confirmed political appointee, but for budgetary reasons, he or she has historically been unable to fund a dedicated team of political appointees. A key first step for the Secretary to improve front house functions is to have his or her own dedicated team of political appointees selected and vetted by the Office of Presidential Personnel, which is not reliant on detailees from other parts of the department to help ensure the completion of the next president's agenda. An aggressive approach to Senate-confirmed leadership positions. While Senate confirmation is constitutionally necessary requirement for appointing agency leadership, the next administration may need to take a novel approach to the confirmation process to ensure an adequate and rapid transition. And this is where they say the quiet part out loud. They don't give a shit about the Constitution. The Constitution is something they just wave the fuck around to pretend that they're doing something that everybody agrees with, or that the country was founded on, as they, like, piss on it. For example, the next administration arguably should place its nominees for key positions to similar positions as actings. For example, putting in a person to serve as the senior official performing the duties of the commissioner of CBP while that person is going through the confirmation process to direct ICE, or becoming the secretary. Yeah, they do this already. You just have to work with a person from the prior administration, and you don't want to do that because you suck and you're bad at your job. This approach would both guarantee implementation of day one agenda and equip the department for potential emergency situations. For how long, right? For how long is the person supposed to be an acting individual? You're putting no time frame on this. You're not putting any logistics in here about, like, well, if it takes X amount of time, blah, blah, blah. Does this acting person also have to be confirmed? Like, you're just trying to invent a loophole. And it's transparent as fuck. Equip the department for potential emergency situations while honoring the confirmation requirement, as if there's not already things in place. The department should also look to remove lower level but nevertheless important positions that currently require Senate confirmation from the confirmation requirement. Remove lower level that require it, so they want to use less of the Constitution. Got it. Just in, there was a school shooting in Georgia. Georgia is in... Which state is that? I'm assuming you mean America. That is unfortunate. That's rough. It's sad. I wonder if there's anything in here about the gun laws. Potential emergency situation while still honoring the confirmation requirement. The department should also blah, 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 blah. Although this effort would require legislation and might be mooted even in the event of legislation that closes portions of the department that currently have Senate-confirmed leadership. So they're going to shut down the government so they can just appoint whoever they want to go around the Constitution. Oh, Georgia is the state. Oh, right. Got it. Thank you. I'm sorry. Clearer, more durable, and political only line of succession. Based on previous experience, the department needs, based on previous experience, your experience in the Trump administration. The department needs legislation to establish a more durable but politically oriented line of succession for agency decision-making purposes. The ideal sequence for line of succession is certainly debatable, except that in circumstances where career employee holds a leadership position in a department, that position should be deemed vacant for the line of succession purposes, and the next eligible political appointee in the sequence should assume acting authority. So if somebody's already got the job and has been there long enough for whatever counts as a career employee, they should just be removed and pretend they don't exist and go to the next person just so you can get rid of somebody who's been there longer than you have. That's hilarious. These people are fucking unbelievable. Oh, it's above Florida. It doesn't surprise me that's right above Florida, because isn't that a thing that happens? Like, a lot of the weapons used in shootings are weapons that are brought from conservative states that have looser gun laws into blue states that have stricter gun regulations. Excuse me. And it's not like, well, by looser, I mean, well, whatever, it doesn't. You know what I mean. Further, individuals wielding acting secretary authority should have explicit authority to finalize agency actions, including regulations, to ensure that the department's Homeland Security mission is fulfilled. Soft closure of unnecessary offices. Pending a possible presidential decision to shrink or eliminate DHS itself, the next administration will still have the obligation to protect the homeland as required by law. The secretary, therefore, can and should use his or her inherent discretionary leadership authorities to, quote, soft close ineffective and problematic corners of the department, which we have not explained what the designations are, like by what measurement, what metric they're deciding X, Y, and Z. And based on what they've said before, it's likely going to be based on whether or not they agree with the current sitting president's political policies before that president came to office. While those corners are to be determined, the secretary could shift personnel, funding, and operational responsibility to mission-essential components of the department, including the office of the secretary itself. This effort not only would make the department more effective, but also would support a legislative move to shrink or dismantle the department by showing that the agency can fulfill national security critical functions without its current bloated bureaucracy. Yeah, listen, operating on a skeleton crew is not a good way to get stuff done. As much as I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you fucking bunch of bureaucratic dipshits. These fucking guys. Restructuring and redistribution of career personnel. Don't run your night shift on a skeleton crew. They're the ones that get everything fucking done. To strengthen political decision-making and ensure that taxpayer dollars are being used legally and efficiently, the secretary should make major decisions and the distribution of career personnel throughout the department. For example, personnel from parts of the department undergoing soft closure could be redistributed to what will be workload-intensive corners of the department, including national security, critical and transparency functions. All personnel with law enforcement capacity should be removed immediately from office billets and deployed to field billets to maximize law enforcement capacity. Compliance for... Oh, they want to defund it. Compliance for grants and other federal funding. The next administration should take steps to restore lawfulness and integrity to the department's massive regimen of federal grant programs, most of which are managed and distributed by the Federal Emergency Management Agency. That's FEMA again. The secretary should direct FEMA, to ensure that all FEMA-issued grants for states, localities, and private organizations is going to recipients who are lawful actors, can demonstrate that they are in compliance with federal law, and can show that their mission and action support the broader Homeland Security mission. But it's emergency management. What? Maybe I'm confused. All applicants and potential recipients of such grant funding should be required to meet certain preconditions for eligibility bracket except for receipt of post-disaster or non-humanitarian funding. Or should simply be considered ineligible for funding. Such preconditions should include at least the following: certification by applicants that they can comply with all the aspects of federal immigration law, including the honoring of all immigration detainers. Certification by applicants that they are both registered with E-Verify and use E-Verify in a transparent and non-evasive manner. For states and localities, that would include certification of all components of that government and not just the applicant agency, and registered with and use E-Verify. If the applicant is a state or locality commitment by the state or locality to total information sharing in the context of both federal law enforcement and immigration enforcement. So basically, if you're an immigrant and you're trying to move to the U.S., you give up any right you have to privacy. This would include access to Department of Motor Vehicles and voter registration databases. So you vote Republican or we're not going to let you into the country. That's fucking terrifying. Non-use of discretionary guest worker visa authorities to stop facilitating the availability of cheap foreign labor in order to support American workers. They took their jobs, particularly poor and middle-class American workers. And fellow congressional intent, the Secretary should explicitly cease using at least 2 discretionary authorities as part of his or her broader effort to support American workers. Hey, listen, I would appreciate it if you guys would take all this gender-based language, that this gender equity that you're trying to force into your language of your document. I'd appreciate if you removed that. Cool, thanks. We all know you're only hiring women because you feel like you have to right now. The Secretary should make it clear that he or she, see, gender-based, gender-affirming, gender equity language. Ooh. The Secretary should make it clear that he or she will not use the Secretary's existing discretionary authority to increase the number of H-2B seasonal non-agricultural visas above the statutory set cap. The Secretary should not issue any regulations in support of the H-2 eligibility county list, the effect of which would prevent favoring certain foreign nationals seeking a H-2 guest worker visa based simply on their nationality. So you don't want to have agreements with Canada and the UK anymore about getting priority or having an ease of access. So, like, as a Canadian, I can go to America for 6 months with no questions asked. As long as I go back after 6 months. And I can just ping pong myself back and forth. And that's 6 months in a row. So you don't want me to be able to do that anymore? I mean, okay, I'm just saying what the consequences are. It's not like it's just brown people. You know what I mean? Like, this is silly. Restoration of honesty and transparency. The Secretary should use his or her inherent authority as leader of the department to follow up with congressional and other partners. Where are you going to get all those experts from for innovation, by the way, if you're going to make it so that nobody can get in? Unless they agree with you already. Because you're not going to get it from your own people, because your education system is ass. You want to have your cake and eat it too. Follow up with congressional and other partners to disclose information and provide the transparency that has been obstructed during the Biden administration. Citation needed. The Secretary should proceed from the assumption that congressional inquiries and public information requests are unfulfilled and then seek to fulfill them. Replacement of the entire Homeland Security Advisory Committee. The Secretary should plan to quickly remove all current members of the Homeland Security Advisory Committee and replace them as quickly as is feasible. So you want to get rid of the current people and get new people in because they questioned your guy? Why? That's wacky. Telling on yourself, isn't it? U.S. Customs and Border Protection, CBP. If all immigration agencies are not merged, including the USCIS and ORR, then an appropriate third alternative would would be to consolidate ICE and CBP to form a combination border security and immigration agency, BSIA. This would integrate critical interdiction enforcement and investigative resources, enhancing coordination and refocusing collective efforts on vast and complex cross-border threats impacting our nation's health, safety, and national security. It would also simultaneously add efficiencies to our nation's capacity to facilitate lawful trade and travel. Hello, watermelons. April, you funny. They don't want liberal Canucks, and they don't want to go to Canuckstein. Nobody else matters. Listen, we're back to there's only America and not America. We don't care about not America. The BS, I mean, I get like the America first mentality and wanting to like make sure that you're protected and safe and that your country is a priority to your country's leaders. I get that. I think that's fine. But that doesn't mean that everybody else isn't going to look at you and be like, yeah, but maybe fuck you though. You know what I mean? One of the things that Justin Trudeau did that I approved of was one of the first things he did in office was starting to distance the Canadian economy from the American economy. I think that was a good move. We were way too integrated. Anyway, the BSIA should establish clear mission requirements, responsibilities, and mandates under existing law regarding the persistent need for and utilization of U.S. military personnel and resources to assist BSIA. So you want to add the military to your immigration policy. Color me unsurprised. Didn't I call that yesterday? Didn't I point that out yesterday? That was going to be a thing that they wanted. Increasing the whole of government efforts and long-term strategies to secure our nation's borders effectively. In addition, appropriate elements within the newly created BSIA should be designated as part of the U.S. National Security and Intelligence Community. A conservative administration should eliminate any prohibitive guidance, direction, or mandate from DHS or administrations that curtail or limit CBP from publishing detailed border security and enforcement data not impacting intelligence, interdiction, and investigative operations methods or sources. DHS should issue a regulation mandating that CBP publish accurate and timely border security data readily available to the public on a regular basis that avoid White House and DHS leadership review and approval. So you want to just avoid the president. Okay. So, do you... You know, if America really wants to be like isolationist like this, then what they should be doing is moving their economics, not their military. The military is not really going to do anything. If they really wanted to, like if America really wanted to isolate, the conservatives really truly wanted to isolate themselves, then what you would want to do is you'd want to start forcing businesses that are operating in America to either be operating in America and nowhere else. So like you can sell to other places, but anything that's made here, if you want to operate here, has to be constructed and sourced here, which would, America, I mean, which would greatly cripple the American economy. And so, like, it's a terrible idea, but that's what they would have to start moving towards to do so in a stable way that didn't fuck everybody over. But these people don't want to do that because these are all fucking business jackasses that don't know what they're fucking doing. You're here for 10 minutes before class. I hope you have a good class. I hope whatever you're doing is better than this. The White House should grant authority for BPS and DHS executives to utilize component aviation assets under the Office of Air and Marine, OAM, CBP, and we need to send planes. CBP and DHS have worldwide missions with personnel and facilities that are deployed across the globe and in every state in the United States, with CBP workforce alone of more than 60,000 people, 240,000 plus for DHS. Encompassing more than 1,000 sea, land, and airports, it is essential that the commissioner, deputy commissioner, secretary, and deputy secretary can travel efficiently to facilities to maintain appropriate situational awareness across the department's vast mission set and interact with the expansive workforce. I feel like these are also the same people that completely ignored that Florida was like outsourcing people that were immigrating by lying to them, that they're currently in court for. Although CBP operates one of the largest aviation components of any domestic U.S. law enforcement agency, executives are prohibited from utilizing the agency's aviation assets to facilitate official travel. I mean, yeah, you going from point A to point B is not a priority, sorry. Executives are required to fly on commercial airlines. Apparently, yeah, it's a problem. They're not special enough. And this requirement significantly limits their ability to have classified communications and takes them offline for extended periods of time. Guys, we want first class and champagne. Fuck off. Border Patrol, BP, and OAM should combine with CBP. BP has more than... We want to travel in style with nice while we shit on any immigrant and anybody who works beneath us. Has more than 20,000 personnel. OAM has approximately 1,800. OAM's assists and dedicated in support of BP operations the vast majority of the time, yet redundant approvals, strategies, and independent hierarchical commands serve as impediments to efficient and practical resource deployments. CBP should restart the expand use of the horseback-mounted border patrol. Yo, America's trying to copy us and wants to put Mounties in. Oh, son of a bitch. As part of this announcement, the secretary should clear the records and personnel files of those who were falsely accused by Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas, of whipping migrants and issue a formal apology on behalf of DHS and CBP. Oh my fucking god. Oh, the secretary should combine the Office of Trade, OT. Oh, no more. You don't want any more to add to that? Okay. Unfucking believable. Listen, people should be allowed to whip migrants because they're not real people. What the fuck? The secretary should combine the Office of Trade, OT, and Trade Relations with the Office of Field Operations, OFO, and the OT is the smallest of CBP's components, and its operational counterpart, OFO, has a workforce of more than 30,000. OT's function is interwoven with that of its OFO operational counterpart. Combining OT with OFO would achieve a streamlined operation and increase OT's capacity and capability by leveraging OFO's expansive resources. CBP, ICE, and USCIS all have authority to issue notice to appear, NTA, to removable aliens in their presence, which begins removal proceedings. In most instances, CBP should turn illegal aliens over to ICE for detention, and ICE can then issue any needed NTA. CBP should issue NTAs only in limited situations for humanitarian reasons, such as medical emergencies. In addition, CBP should eliminate the use of notice to report, or NTR, altogether. CBP's established national standards of transport, escort, detention, and search, TEDS, TEDS, have been widely interpreted and expanded by lower courts. This has resulted in unrealistic and differing detention standards for CBP facilities based on the jurisdiction within which they fall, negatively impacting operations. ICE has suffered similarity. Are you talking about those kids in cages? Is that what we're on about? Texas was also shipping immigrants to make it everyone else's problem. Fucking Texas, dude. That place I mentioned that had the wildfires that I mentioned earlier about the federal government stepping in for emergencies, that was the Texas of Canada. Alberta. Single nation-wide detention standard should be codified that prevents individual states from mandating that federal government agencies adhere to widely expansive and ever-changing sets of standards. Such standards should allow the flexibility to use a number of temporary facilities such as tents. They want to put them in tents, guys. They want to put them in tents, and the states won't let them sometimes. Don't forget that these are people who think that Muslim terrorists are sneaking across the southern border to instigate terrorism instead of using the internet. I know, right? These people think, okay, if Trump and Elon are anything to go by, these people think that, like, the migration problem is people from other countries taking their prisoners and successfully shipping them to Mexico so they can then make a border run, which is absolutely fucking absurd, and I almost want somebody to try it. What if Canada was doing it the whole time? What if it was us? Wrong border. Michigan would be more efficient for going to Illinois. I know, right? Guys, they're not rowing across the ocean anymore. They're rowing across Lake Superior, coming from Sault Ste. Marie. That was fucking hilarious. That's so stupid. Hi, Honest Red. How's it going? Oh, good lord. These people are fucking delusional. Anyway, where was I? Right, they want to put people in tents. The annual costs associated with establishing and maintaining temporary facilities to address the flow of illegal immigration and associated care. Yeah, but they're not just talking about illegal immigration. They're talking about regular immigration, too. Like, this is fucking stupid. It was Chesh. It was me. Like Huron. Like Erie. Fucking goddamn it. In a little rowboat. Can you imagine trying to go across Lake Superior in a rowboat? That'd be fucking terrible. Ugh. It's awful. Garbage. Poo-poo. Hate that. Hate that for me. Where was I? Oh, right. And associated care, transportation, and processing are prohibitive. And CBP's budget is inadequate. CBP is forced to forego critical mission essential endeavors to fund the additional associated costs. Oh, I'm sorry, you mean the people that you're detaining have to be treated decently and have to have medical access and food? CBP, this is so stupid. Often this requires the reprogramming of funding at the DHS level, which has a negative impact on other GHS components operations. This predictable cost that has to be paid by existing CBP and DHS funding levels reduces CBP's operational readiness and ability to accomplish its diverse and critical mission to protect the American people. The next president should request a realistic budget that fully pays for these costs. Sorry, I think my neighbor is cutting the grass. Because I'm jealous that they have grass. I'm not gonna lie, the funniest thing about that to me is that they have like a whole ass, they have a whole big ass lawnmower and like the it's like not a big yard. I just think it's funny. Tents with AC. Yeah, I know, right? I know, right? Ridiculous. Increasing funding is needed for the BP to hire additional support personnel, which would relieve uniformed BP agents from administrative duties associated with processing aliens and allowing them to return to their national security mission. Congress should increase funding for facility. Everything that they've talked about, by the way, has been increasing government. They haven't mentioned a single thing that's actually shrinking the government. They're just talking about redistributing and moving stuff around and expanding government, not shrinking it at all. The only thing they've talked about shrinking is the size of the military, and that's by accident. That's just because they want to take out all the gay people, the women, and the trans people. Strong paddle arms. If you want grass, you have a lawn that needs mowing. Listen, I would love that. That'd be great. I'd mow your grass if you let me live in your lawn in a mushroom. Congress should increase funding for facility upgrades at strategic land ports of entry POEs, including expanding state-of-the-art technology such as non-intrusive inspection equipment. Why you gotta call it like that? That's making me think it's really intrusive. Today, the cartels exploit the aging facilities and lack of adequate technology to smuggle illicit drugs, contraband, and more successfully through our nation's POEs. I'm pretty sure that's actually not where most of like the illicit, like your opioid crisis is coming from. I could be wrong though. I actually really enjoy landscaping gardening work, so don't at me. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, needed reforms. Since the formation of DHS, ICE has increasingly been tasked with auxiliary missions that have little or nothing to do with either immigration or customs enforcement. To return ICE to its primary mission, any new administration that wishes to restore the rule of law to our immigration enforcement efforts should order ICE to stop closing out pending immigration cases and apply the Immigration and Nationality Act, the INA, as written by Congress. The Biden administration closed out tens of thousands of immigration cases that had already been prepared and were slated for expedited removal processing or hearings before the U.S. Immigration Court. This misguided action constituted an egregious example of lawlessness that allowed thousands of illegal aliens and other immigration violators to go free in the United States. Ooh, they got away with bureaucracy. Nobody's allowed to take advantage of bureaucracy and loopholes except for us. Fuck you. Your lawn is like 110 degrees right now. Is that Fahrenheit? What's 110 degrees in real measurements? Hold on, I gotta find out. 110 degrees Fahrenheit to Celsius. Oh, that's 43. That's spicy. That would be... you're in Arizona. You don't have a lawn. Who the fuck are you lying to? Direct ICE to stop ignoring criminal aliens identified through the 287G program. Ultimately, Congress should prevent ICE from ignoring criminal aliens identified by local law enforcement agencies that are partners in the 287G program. However, before congressional action, ICE should be directed to take custody of all aliens with records or felonies, crimes of violence, DUIs, previous removals, and any other crime that is considered a national security or public safety threat as defined under current laws. Eliminate T and U visas. Victimization should not be a basis for immigration benefit. If an alien who was trafficked or a crime victim is actively and significantly cooperating with law enforcement as a witness, the S visa is already available and should be used. Pending elimination of the T and U visas, the Secretary should significantly restrict eligibility for visas to prevent fraud. How much fraud is actually happening? Because I feel like it's probably not a whole lot. Hot as fuck. You got a tiny lawn with a tiny lawnmower. Oh my god, that's adorable. That's so cute. Not intrusive, except for the cancer from repeated X-ray exposure. 25 degrees. I don't know what's the temperature here. Hold on, let me look. It's 23 degrees Celsius here right now. I don't know what it feels like. I was sitting outside and I thought it was nice out, so I don't know. I also enjoy fall weather though, so like it hits 15 and I'm like, Issue clear guidance regarding detention for and bonds for aliens. Thousands of illegal immigrants are allowed to bond out of immigration detention and only to disappear into the interior of the United States, where many commit crimes and others disappear. Citation needed. Many. How much is many? Okay, we're gonna go with bond and disappearance and crime. Page 173. I want a citation for that. I also want to know if any of these things would be a problem for some of our lol cows. This occurs primarily because of poorly worded bond regulations, contradictory bond policy memoranda, and poor practices for managing released aliens and alternatives to detention ATD program, which requires significant reform. Like I said, only fucking people that are them are allowed to find loopholes and take advantage of rules. Yeah, it's 20 degrees higher in Arizona than it is in Canada right now, where I am in Canada, which, you know, makes sense. Prioritize national security in the Student and Exchange Visitor Program, SEVP. ICE should end its current cozy difference to educational institutions and remove security risks from the program. This requires working with the Department of State to eliminate or significantly reduce the number of visas issued to foreign students from enemy nations. Most of the foregoing can be accomplished rapidly and effectively through executive action that is both lawful and appropriate. Additionally, ICE should clarify who is responsible for enforcing its criminal and civil authorities. It should also remove self-imposed limitations on its nationwide jurisdiction. Okay, this basically means that they don't want to allow Chinese students anymore. Or Russian students, at least. Or probably Iran. Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, and I'm saying that because that's what they mentioned being at war with before. Oh, and North Korea. Although I don't know how many students from North Korea go to America. I don't imagine it's very many, but hey, I've never looked it up. Maybe I'm wrong. Where I live, 43 and negative 43 both fall within the range of what we get. Yeah, same. Yeah, it's we got negative 43. I think we got. I don't remember if we hit negative 50 last year. We might have. I'd have to look. Homeland Security Investigation, HSI, Special Agents, and the 1811 or the 1811 series should enforce Title 8 and 18 crimes as the biggest part of their portfolio. Alien smuggling, trafficking, and cross-border crime as defined under Title 8, Title 18 should be the focus of ICE operations. The role of ICE deportation officers should be clarified. ICE enforcement and removal operations, or the ERO, should be identified as being primarily responsible for enforcing civil migration regulations, including the civil arrest, detention, and removal of immigration violators anywhere in the United States, without warrant where appropriate. Without warrants. Oh. Subject only to the civil warrant requirements of the INA where appropriate. Oh, so they just want to be able to go around all willy-nilly. All ICE memoranda. I remember when ICE was introduced and everybody was like, this is horrific. Why the fuck are we doing this? I don't recall anybody liking ICE. I don't know. Like, nobody liked it. I don't know why it's still there. This is like the definition of, oh, did you see a woman stealing baby formula from Walmart? No, you didn't. All ICE memoranda identified as, quote, sensitive zones where ICE personnel are prohibited from operating should be rescinded. Rely on the good judgment of officers in the field to avoid inappropriate situations. No. Then give them better training and more appropriate, like, rules and stricter punishment. That's not the word I'm looking for. Consequences. If they fuck up. That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. To maximize the efficient use of its resources, ICE. I wouldn't trust an ICE agent to choose a side dish at Wendy's. To maximize the efficient use of its resources, ICE should make full use of existing expedited removal ER authorities. The agency has limited use of the ER to eligible aliens apprehended within 100 miles of the border. This is not a statutory requirement. New policies. U.S. national security and public safety interest would be well served if ICE were to be combined with CBP and USCIS, as mentioned above. Additionally, ICE/HSI, along with CBP, should be full participants in the intelligence community. The use of Blackie's warrants? What the fuck is that? Oh, I need to look up what that is. The fuck is that? That's not... Does that sound racist as fuck to anybody else? What the fuck is this? What is this? What is this? Civil search warrant issued by the federal magistrate to authorize immigration agents to enter private premises and detect, apprehend, and remove aliens who are illegally present in the United States. The term Blackie's warrants originates from 1978 case of Blackie's House of Beef. Okay. Blackie's House of Beef, Inc. versus Lionel J. Castillo, Commissioner of the Immigration and Neutralization Services et al. Appellants. Wow. Oh, okay. Well, if anybody wants to know a little bit more about this, here you go. There you go. I'm trying to find like an overview. Four officials at Immigration Service sued by Blackie's restaurant. Okay, so it's a restaurant that sued immigration offices. Okay, I understand. Thank you. Still seems like it's probably racist as fuck. I'm not gonna lie. Someone asked you to buy baby formula. If someone asked me to buy baby formula for their kid, you would happily do that? Yeah, sure. Yeah, why not? Would you steal it for them, though? That's a real measure. I'm just teasing. The use of Blackie warrants should be operationalized within ICE. These civil search warrants are commonly used for worksite enforcement when agents have probable cause that illegal aliens are employed at a business. This would streamline investigations. No, it wouldn't. It would just make everybody unhappy. I considered stealing formula. Had to use special stuff for both of your kids, and it was mad expensive. Maybe it was cheaper, people wouldn't steal it. Yeah, that's like, the same thing kind of applies to piracy. If people can afford to do it, they will, but if you blow it out of proportion and make it too expensive, people aren't going to be able to buy it, which means you lose profit by making your profit too high. Safeguarding Americans will require not just borders securing the border, but continuous vetting and investigations of many aliens who exploited President Biden's open border for potentially nefarious purposes, including some Afghan evacuees sent directly to the U.S. during America's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Wait, they were evacuated to America. They weren't nefarious. What the fuck are you talking about? What? I'm getting another citation on that one. I need a citation for that. What? Huh? Remember when I said this sounds fucking racist? Evacuees. Nefarious purpose is page 174. It's 174 on the PDF. It's 142 on screen. I'm just going by the PDF number. My wall's getting too out of control. Of course, I would steal baby formula from someone in need. I'm an anti-capitalist with a heart. That's just Robin Hood, my friend. I don't know if that's just chaotic good. Budget. Congress should mandate the fund additional bed space for alien detainees. ICE should be funded for a significant increase in detention space, raising the daily available number of beds to 100,000. Congress should fund ICE for at least 20,000 ERO officers and 5,000 office of the principal legal advisor OPLA attorneys. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS. U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, is the USCIS. I'm going to call it USCIS because it kind of sounds like ISIS, but it's like communists. It's communist ISIS. That's what it sounds like. And it's got the word cis in it, which is a slur. You can't do that. USCIS is the agency tasked with administering the illegal immigration and certain temporary visa programs. Needed reforms. Since January of 2021, USCIS's priority have been misaligned, and this has transformed it into an open borders agency, ignoring the critical role that it plays in national security, public safety, and safeguarding the integrity of our immigration system. USCIS should be returned for operating and screening and vetting agency. Regulatory efforts have focused on easing asylum eligibility and in a manner that is guaranteed to exacerbate asylum fraud as people surge at the border. Bullshit. Emphasis also has been placed on removing legal barriers to immigration, such as the use of public benefits. These actions violate statutes, erode constitutional intent, and provide a significant magnet for continued illegal immigration. The founding fathers were illegal immigrants. The U.S. was founded on illegal immigration. The U.S. as it is now. America is not supposed to be white. Additionally, U.S. USCIS resources have been misappropriated to focus more on creating and expanding large-scale parole and temporary status programs that violate the law and are otherwise contrary to congressional intent, instead of focusing on a more secure and efficient process for those who are seeking benefits. The ever-increasing number of applications filed has made it difficult to vet applications adequately for eligibility, fraud, and specific national security and public safety problems. We right now in Canada have a Conservative Party leader that refuses to do the national background check. Alex says, fun fact, illegal border crossings are down compared to when Trump was in office. Yep. The economy is also doing better in America as well. You can also point out that Kamala Harris put forward a bill for border security that was like more intense than the current one, and they didn't want it. The Republicans stopped it. So they don't really want these things. The Fraud Detection and National Security Directorate, FDNS, is currently a small directorate with assigned officers reporting through a chain of command in the field, and this has led to stovepiping, lack of coordination in national policy, and inconsistencies throughout the agency. To prioritize vetting and fraud detection, FDNS should undergo a structural shift focus on direct reporting from the field to headquarters, reclassification of leadership, and FDNS directives taking precedence over those of other component entities. Correcting the current misalignment of agency priorities and resources should begin with this primary shift in focus to vetting and fraud detection. These actions would reform the agency, returning it to its screening and vetting mission and protecting the homeland. All this is more of, election fraud bullshit that they're like, let's throw a bunch of money at it and find fucking nothing. This is something Canada did. Canada put forward like, we need to check to make sure like all of the people that have to travel for work inside of the government aren't like overspending, and they spent like a bunch of money to find like $20 unaccounted for or something like. It was fucking ridiculous. They spent way more money than was like ever lost. It was fucking silly. It was super fucking silly. I don't remember who initiated it though, so the structural changes should include implementation of the USCIO, the USCIS denaturalization unit, denaturalization unit, denaturalization, whatever, in an effort to maintain integrity in the system by identifying and prosecuting criminal and civil denaturalization cases, in combination with the Department of Justice for aliens who obtain citizenship through fraud or other illicit means. Additionally, USCIS should create a criminal enforcement competent with the agency to investigate immigration benefits under fraud under Title 8 bracket, perhaps requiring additional legislative and regulatory authorities for the officers themselves and bracket, and prosecute cases through the Special Assistants U.S. Attorneys or SAUSA, the SAUSAs, with substantive knowledge in the field. Particular attention should be given to addressing increasing incidents of forced labor trafficking in temporary work visa programs. While the Biden regulatory agency has focused on at least two major rules, the credible fear rule in the public charge and the public charge rule, USCIS has utilized other policies and internal procedural mechanisms to extend employment authorization to large groups of people who are in the country without legal status. The agent, well, that's granting them legal status, in a way, I guess, at least temporarily. The agency has taken quiet steps to cut corners and lessen adjudicatory standards. Or, is it cutting corners if you just don't think it's an issue? During the transition period, a complete audit of agency policies, memoranda, and management directives issued during the Biden administration should be completed. That would be huge and take a long time. The rescission documents should be prepared for issuance within the first few days of the incoming administration. Additionally, regulatory documents should be drafted to review or reverse all regulations promulgated during the Biden administration. I have a question. Who's supposed to be doing all these audits? So this is like the third or fourth thing that they're like, we want a full review of this thing. Who's supposed to be doing that? Is it supposed to be a third party? Is it supposed to be the administration that is coming into office? Is it supposed to be the people who are already there that are doing it on your behalf and providing you that information? Or do you want to appoint new people? Who's doing this? New policies to advance the national interest. The three core immigration agencies, USCIS, ICE, and CBP, should reemerge and have immigration elements outside of DHS, such as ORR and of HHS, included. The fragmented immigration enforcement framework that developed in the wake of the Homeland Security Act has weakened each agency and should be remediated. Combining these critical agencies would strengthen their capabilities, ensure operation, and promote information sharing. Agency responsibilities and the delineation of authorities, such as inconsistent use of deferred action and issuance of NTAs by each agency, have long been a point of contention that would be addressed much more easily if they were recombined into a single entity. Alternatively, new policies for USCIS as it currently exists, should focus on matters that can be addressed through administrative action. The workforce should be realigned and, as necessary, retrained on base eligibility and fraud detection rather than speed and processing. Training should be returned to federal law enforcement training centers, or FLETC, FLETC, which would underscore the enforcement role of USCIS as a vetting agency and rebranded accordingly. Management directives and policies should realign to ensure that the workforce, while adaptable and able to handle the bulk of the USCIS mission, is not allowed to be pulled off mission work to focus on all unlawful programs. DACA, DACA, mass parole for Afghans, Ukrainians, Venezuelans, etc., which divert resources away from nuclear family and employment programs. No, they don't. That's not how that works. It sounds like they want the current administration to have this done. It does kind of sound like that, but I don't think they would accept it. If they got this information, they're just going to complain that, it was a biased administration that gave it to them. So, that doesn't make any sense either. The Department of Homeland Security should be assisting the FBI if they actually want to promote Homeland Security. Yeah, I think that would make sense to me. The regulatory agenda should include the immediate submission of notices of proposed rulemaking for the Trump administration's public charge rule. So now they're just getting away with they're throwing out the pretense of the next conservative presidency, and they're talking about just the next Trump administration. Including aspects from its original notice of proposed rulemaking, temporary work visa reform, employment authorization reform rules, asylum bar rules, and a third country transit rule. At a minimum, an enhanced regulatory agenda should include rules strengthening the integrity of the asylum system, parole reform, and U-visa reform that prioritizes relief for victims of heinous crimes and ensures that we protect the truest and most deserving victims of crime. Huh? The truest, most deserving victims of crime? And how do you define who that is? Do you have a scale? Do you have a sliding scale of what is the most victim and the least victim? Like, what the fuck how do you quantify that? Like, this is a very large philosophical moral conundrum that you've just presented. Jesus Christ. Also, Trump, make sure to mention me if you want me to read any of it. I know Trump didn't read this. I don't think Trump could read this. The regulatory agenda should include the immediate submission. He was involved in it. He had say-so about it. He didn't sit down and read the final product. Not all of it. I wouldn't believe that at all. The immediate submission of notices of proposed rulemaking for the Trump administration, blah, 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 blah. At minimum, an enhanced regulatory agenda should include rule strength, blah, 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 blah. Not all policy changes require formal rulemaking, however, as internal guidance documents are generally exempt from under the Administrative Procedure Act, APA. In this regulatory space, USIS policy memos and operational guidance should reduce the validity of employment authorization documents and end the COVID flexibilities, including the reliance on biometric reuse. USIS should also enforce existing regulations by rejecting incomplete applications and petitions, ensuring both that they are completed before accepting for filing, and the FDNS signs off on all approved applicants and petitions before approval notices are sent to the alien or petitioner. Other efforts should be focused. Why are you separating out that there are different types of people applying? Other efforts should be focused on adjudicating standards, returning to nearly 100% interview required for all appropriate cases. The incoming administration should spearhead an immigration legislative agenda focused on creating a merit-based immigration system that rewards high-skilled aliens instead of the current system that favors extended family-based and luck-of-the-draw immigration. Oh, so you don't want to keep families together? You want to make it harder for families to be together in America? It says the group of people that's supposed to be like, family is really important. Yeah, fuck them. Okay. Be useful to us or get fucked, I guess. I don't know. What the fuck? Almost sounds like they meant most deserving of crimes as people who had it coming. The incoming administration should, what did I say? To that end, the diversity visa lottery should be repealed. Chain migration should be ended while focusing on the nuclear family and the existing. What do you think? What do you think that is? What? Huh? What? So no grandparents? You want to separate people? Like I've said this before, and I'll say it again. The nuclear family is not about like bringing families together. It's about isolating families within a unit. That's what it's about. That's what it's always been. It's never been anything other than that. You want those high-skilled immigrants to be properly useful to society, you should bring their families over with them. Right. And then enable their kids to go to school and get educated so that way they can be useful to your society. Duh. Idiots. Dumbass. These people are fucking so stupid. It's impressive. It's just racist. That's all this is. It's just fucking racist. And existing employment visa programs should be placed with the system to award visas only to the best and brightest. Internal efforts to limit employment authorization, whatever that means. Employment authorization should be matched by congressional acts to narrow statutory eligibility to work in the United States and migrant unfair employment competitors for U.S. citizens. The oft-abused H-1B program should be transported to an elite program through which employers are vying to bring in only the top foreign workers at the highest wages so as not to depress American opportunities. That means that you're going to take away the high skill jobs from educated people away from Americans with student debt. And you're going to take those away from Americans and bring in foreigners for those situations and then say that the rest of Americans should just be working low tier jobs. Like, that's all that reads as, which is also silly. This is all silly, and it's all just racist. Additionally, Congress should improve the integrity of temporary work visa programs, repeal temporary protection status TPS designations, permanently authorize and make mandatory e-verify, and end parole abuse by legislating specific parole agencies. What the fuck is e-verify? I don't know what this is. I'm betting it's problematic. I'm just using page 177 as the reference. It doesn't really matter. It's just e-verify. They've brought it up a couple of times. USCIS should make it clear that where no court jurisdiction exists, it will not honor court decisions that seek to undermine regulatory and sub-regulatory efforts. What? Fuck the court and fuck going through constitutional rights and the law. Fuck it. Finally, USCIS still requires access to all relevant national security and law enforcement databases in the same vein as any other agency in the intelligence space. This is a key concept that should be addressed as USCIS is returned to functioning primarily as a vetting agency. Budget: USCIS is primarily fee-funded, operating on revenue derived from those who are seeking immigration benefits, work permits, and naturalization. The total agency budget requested for the fiscal year FY 2023 included both fees and small appropriations is slightly less than $6 billion. The bulk of the funds are derived from application fees through immigration examination fee account. As a general principle, adjudication of applicants and petitioners should be paid by applicants, not American taxpayers. It is critical that any changes in the budget, even in the wake of a realigned agency combined with ICE and CBP, should retain a fee-funded model. So you just want to make it more expensive to move into America. Sure, okay. Given the Obama and Biden's administration lack of will, fees should be increased agency-wide to keep in step with inflation and the true cost of the adjudications. The incoming administration should immediately submit a fee rule that reflects such an increase. Aside from an increase in all fees, why didn't Trump do this last time he was in office? Aside from an increase in all fees, the rule should drastically limit the availability for fee waivers and should implement a fee for asylum applicants. So if you're an asylum seeker in a time of war and you're a refugee, they're going to charge you money. Oh my fucking God. Stop treating the American government and its people like it's a business. Congress should allow, this is like charging, like a charity charging you to donate blood. This is fucking stupid. Additionally, Congress should allow a 10% across-the-board increase in all fees and all fee rules to account for the fact that a new fee rule always lags behind budget requirements. USCIS should strive to increase opportunity. So you want to spend more money on the government and increase it and make it bigger while pretending you want a smaller government. We see through you. USCIS should strive to increase opportunities for premium processing, a benefit by which applicants can expedite their processing time. Pay to win. Welcome to America. Pay to win system. What's it fucking shit, dude? E-Verify is part of the USA DHS. It's a way to have businesses businesses to determine the so-called eligibility of their employees. Oh, gross. AKA a way to exclude those who are minorities. Again, land of the free is an open prison of slaves. Ugh. Fucking yikes, dude. Yeah, I was gonna say E-Verify sounds like it's bullshit if they're pushing it this hard. We'll look it up more later. While this places time burdens on adjudicators, it provides an opportunity for a significant influx of money into the agency, which is not currently available. While simply raising fees to the necessary levels to make the agency run efficiently, would be preferable without the need to expand premium processing. This short-term measure should be utilized, particularly if longer-term fee rules are unsuccessful. At least until USIS is caught up on all case backlogs, all applicants rejected for any benefit or status adjudication should be required to leave the U.S. immediately. So they also said that anybody should be rejected if an application isn't filled out properly. So if there's an error in the application, you get deported. That's and whether or not the error is on your end or somebody else's end. If you can afford to get out of America, well, you still can. Yeah, right? I don't know. Oh, if you can afford it, get out of America while you still can. Well, maybe. That might be an idea. Ordinary processes can resume once all case backlogs have been adjudicated. Finally, USIS should pause the intake of applications in a benefit category where backlogs in that category become excessive. Once USIS adjudicators can decrease that caseload to a manageable number, application intake should resume. And then they don't want to have anybody applying until they're caught up. So no new applicants for X amount of time, however long that is. So there's going to be no money coming in to the what? Huh? Personnel. USIS should be classified as a national security sensitive agency, and all of its employees should be classified as holding national security sensitive positions. Leaks must be investigated and punished as they would be in a national security agency, and the union should be decertified. No unions. We hate unions. We want to be able to treat people like shit. Any employee who cannot accept that change and cannot conform their behavior to the standards required by such an agency should be separated. USIS, so if they don't want to get rid of their union, they should be fired, which is union busting, which is illegal. USIS DCE personnel, again, I'm back to anybody who is a part of this should be tried as a traitor, because they're just wanting to break laws left, right, and center, and proposing the breaking of laws and the fucking betrayal of the of America. All of this is like a full betrayal of what America is and what they stand for, and they're trying to form a coup to change to try to legally, definitely not legally, change America from a democracy into a dictatorship. To denounce American citizenship, it costs thousands of dollars. It's only a few hundred in most developed countries. Cults always make it hard to leave. Yeah. Copying this document is a felony. When I applied, one of the documents they required had to be Xerox copied. They would reject the applicant if I supplied the original. However, the original clearly stated on it, copying this document is a felony. That's insane. That's so stupid. What the fuck? You want to fix your immigration and want to streamline it? Talk to the employees that are there and ask them if there's any redundant bullshit that would help streamline the policies. And then do those things and see if it works. Because the best way to make a workplace better and function better is to talk to your lowest tier employees and doing all of that are doing all of the annoying bullshit work. Because they're the ones that are going to tell you, we don't actually really need this, and we actually really need this, and this should just be changed to that, and it would streamline everything for us. They're gonna be the ones that know, because they do it 40 hours a week. Whatever. Anyway. Us as DC personnel president should be skeletal, and agency employees never be skeletal. That's a terrible idea. With operation or security roles should be rotated out to offices throughout the United States. These ISIS employees should live and work in the communities that are most affected by their daily duties and decisions. Is that going to apply to all of you? I doubt it. But it's not considered treason by the Constitution's definition. It's actually sedition. Sure. Necessary border and immigration statutory regulatory administrative changes. The current border security crisis was made possible by glaring loopholes in our immigration system. The result was preventable and predictable historic increase in illegal and inadmissible encounters along with our southern border. This pulled limited but this isn't happening right now. This pulled limited resources from the front lines of our nation's borders and away from their national security mission. But their national security is the front line. Those are whatever. Releasing a vast and complex set of threats into our country. To regain our sovereignty, integrity, and security, Congress must pass meaningful legislation to close the current loopholes and prevent future administration from exploiting them for political gain or personal ideology. Okay, but you want to know what's like a bigger priority problem? Loopholes in taxes for rich people. How about we start closing some of those? That seems like a priority. And would have a greater effect on the amount of income that the government has to distribute into social programs that they're calling for. They were calling for social programs, by the way. Legislative proposals. Title 42 authority and Title 8. Create an authority akin to Title 42 Public Health Authority that has been used during COVID-19 pandemic to expel illegal aliens across the border immediately with certain non-health conditions are met, such as loss of operational control of the border. So if you get sick, we're throwing you out of the country. What the fuck? This is so fucking dystopian. Mandatory. You might want to just throw them in the ocean. Put them on a boat. Tip the boat over. What the fuck? Mandatory appropriation. Like, this is like the land of the free, home of the people who hate you and want to kill you, to tell you go fuck yourself. Like, this is terrible. Land of dystopia. Mandatory land of people who don't give a shit about literally anyone else and have no empathy whatsoever. Mandatory appropriation for... This is psychotic. Border wall system infrastructure. The monies appropriated would be used to fund construction of additional border wall systems. Oh, you mean Mexico's not going to pay for it? Technological and personnel in strategic locations in accordance with the Border Security Improvement Plan, BSIP. Appropriate the wall that doesn't work and doesn't mean anything. Okay. Appropriation for port of entry infrastructure. Why isn't infrastructure... Oh, okay, I got it. Border security is not addressed solely by systems in between the ports of entry. POEs require technology and physical upgrades as well as an influx of personnel to meet the capacity demands and act as the literal gatekeepers of the country. Yeah, but you said you wanted to get rid of TSA. You said you wanted to privatize TSA. But Chesh, didn't you know that socialism is when the government does a thing and communism is when the government does a lot of things? I don't know, this sounds like a lot of things. They want that permanent. Yes. This is the first line of defense against drug and human smuggling operations. Unaccompanied minors. Congress should repeal... You know, you used to be able to travel in America as an unaccompanied minor. Congress should... With no identification. All you had to do was prove you were... You just had to be Canadian. So, I don't know, a birth certificate, I guess you would need. That would be your identification. Which didn't have a picture on it, obviously. Congress should repeal Section 235 of the William Wilberg Force Trafficking Victims Protection Reauthorization Act of 2008, TVPRA, which provides numerous immigration benefits to unaccompanied alien children and only encourages more parents to send their children across the border illegally and unaccompanied. These children too often become trafficking victims, which means that the TVPRA has failed. What do you mean? The point is that the idea is that they are being trafficked. What the fuck are you talking about? If an alternative to repealing Section 235 of the TVPRA is necessary, the section should be amended so that all unaccompanied children, regardless of nationality, may be returned to their home countries in a safe and efficient manner. Currently, the TVPRA allows only children from contiguous countries, Canada and Mexico, to be returned, while every other unaccompanied minor must be placed into a lengthy process that usually results in the minors landing in a custody of an illegal alien family member. Why? How do you know that? How do you know that they're illegal? What the fuck? Congress must... I'm gonna go citation needed on that, but I'm back to... I don't think I know how to look that up or get that information. Congress must end the Flores Settlement Agreement by explicitly setting nationwide terms and standards for families and unoccupied detention and housing. Such standards should focus on meeting human needs and should allow for large-scale use of temporary facilities, for example, tents. Hey, we're back to wanting more fucking tents. William Wilberforce was awesome. Google him. William Wilberforce. I'm not going to be able to read that later. Page 180. Okay. We'll do that. On to the board it goes. Congress should amend the Homeland Security Act and portions of the TVPRA and move detention of alien children explicitly from the Department of Health and Human Services to DHS. Yeah, let's just not have the... Okay. That's a terrible idea. That's a terrible idea. You want to have children in prisons, is what you're telling me. Unaccompanied minors go to prison. Do not collect $200. Do not pass go. Asylum reform. I honestly, if you're able to like get kicked out of the country and then still successfully get back in, I feel like you should be just allowed to stay at that point. That ought to earn you some kind of fucking status. Asylum reform. 1. The standard for credible fear and persecution should be raised and aligned to the standard for asylum. It should also account specifically for credibility determinations that are a key element of the asylum claim. 2. Are we going to get a bunch of like Americans coming as asylum seekers coming into Canada? Codify former asylum bars and third country transit rules. 3. Congress should eliminate the particular social group protected ground as vague and overbroad, or in the alternative, provide a clear definition with parameters that at a minimum codify the holding in matter of AB that gang violence and domestic violence are not grounds for asylum. Interesting. Parole reform. Congress should end the widespread abuse of parole in contravention of statutes and return to its origins as an extraordinary remedy for a limited purpose. NGOs and processing. Congress should halt funds given to non-governmental organization NGOs to process and transport illegal aliens into and throughout the United States. Such funds and infrastructure include the DHS joint processing centers, should be redirected to secure the border, detain aliens, and provide space for immigration and court proceedings. Other pathways for border crossers. Well, Congress should use its oversight authority to ensure that expedited removal is used to its fullest extent and followed to the letter of the law. Other paths for border crossers should be included in the legislative package. 1. Migrant protection protocols. Update the statutory language providing the basis for the Remain in Mexico program as needed to withstand judicial scrutiny and executive inaction. Asylum cooperative agreements. While the agreements themselves must be negotiated, Congress should mandate that the executive branch work faithfully to negotiate and execute ACAs and set parameters to ensure that unwilling executive cannot renege on an existing agreement or abandon the effort. 3. Other expedited pathways. Congress should explicitly permit programs akin to the Prompt Asylum Claim Review, PACER, PACR, and Humanitarian Asylum Review Process, or HARP, HARP programs. Employment authorization. 1. Congress should reassert control of employment authorization, which is subject to a rampant regulatory abuse, and limit it to certain categories of legal immigrants and non-immigrants. But didn't you say you wanted to use the E-Verify thing? So defund the police, but different? Yeah, defund the police by giving them less humanitarian stuff and giving them more, like, just punish everybody all the time stuff. Like, make them more militant and fascist. 2, Congress should also permanently authorize E-Verify and make it mandatory. Huh? These two are contradictory, are they not? Am I crazy? I have an uncle with dual citizenship with Canada who is considering moving there if Trump wins. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's fair. Do us a favor, and if you're going to be voting, don't vote conservative when you get here. Cool, thanks. I would appreciate that. State and local law enforcement. 1, Congress should unequivocally authorize state and local law enforcement to participate in immigration border security actions in compliance with Arizona versus the United States. 2, Congress should require compliance with immigration detainers to the maximum extent consistent with the 10th Amendment and set financial disincentives for jurisdictions that implement either official or unofficial sanctuary policies. So the federal government wants to dictate what the states are doing. Prosecutorial discretion. Congress should restrict the authority for prosecutorial discretion to eliminate it as a catch-all excuse for eliminating immigration enforcement. Mandatory detention. Congress should eliminate ambiguous discretionary language in Title VIII that aliens may be detained and clarify that aliens shall be detained. This language, which contrasts with the other shall detain language in the statute, creates an unhelpful ambiguity and allows the executive branch to ignore the will of Congress. So if you try to go to America, you will be detained, period. End of sentence. Regulations. Withdraw Biden administration regulations and reissue new regulations in the following areas. 1, credible fear/asylum jurisdiction for border crossers, and 2, public charge. TS visa, U.S. visa reform. Unless and until T and U visas are repealed, each program needs to be reformed to ensure that only legitimate victims of trafficking and crime who are actively providing significant material assistance to law enforcement are eligible for spots in the queue. So if you're a victim and you're trying to recover, you don't get a spot. You have to be doing something for law enforcement. Repeal TPS designations. H-1B reform. Transform the program to an elite mechanism exclusively to bring the best and brightest, whatever that means, at the highest wages, while simultaneously ensuring that U.S. workers are not being disadvantaged by the program. H-1B is a means to only to supplement the U.S. economy and to keep companies competitive, not to depress U.S. labor markets artificially in certain industries. Certain industries. Maybe other ones, though. Employment authorization, along with the legislative proposal, take regulatory action to limit the classes of aliens eligible to work authorizations. Executive orders. Pathway to border crossers. 1, the direct Department of State and Department of Homeland Security. I love when you decide to class foreigners, institute a class system. 1, direct the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security to reinstate asylum cooperative agreements with Northern Triangle countries immediately. 2, recommence negotiations with Mexico to fully implement the Remain in Mexico protocols. 3, reinstate to the extent possible expedite pathways with full credible fear/immigration court processes, PACER and HARP. 4, prohibit the use of notice to report the use of any funds for travel into the interior of the United States and the government flights or transportation for aliens. So you're not allowed, once you get here, you have to stay here and you're not allowed to move. 5, mandate that ICE use all detention space in full compliance with Section 235 of the INA, issue weekly reports on detention capacity, and provide authority for low-level temporary capacity, for example, tents, once permanent full space is full. Yeah, no, that's a terrible idea. No, concentration camps are bad, okay? Maybe we don't do concentration camps. 6, eliminate the use of ATD. You have any idea how bad this is on top of, like, the war they're proposing with China? Like, when you start stacking these things, like, this is terrible. This is just getting worse and worse and worse. Eliminate the use of ATD for border crossers except for in rare cases and only with explicit authority of the Secretary. 7, prohibit the use of parole except in matters that are certified by the Secretary of Homeland Security as requiring action for humanitarian or significant public benefit reasons. and prohibit the use of parole in any categorical circumstance. You're expecting people to come to America with money, then not be allowed to work or be there, survive, and then still pay you more to be allowed to stay there and apply to be there. Like, you're creating an impossible scenario, which is intentional, obviously. Enforcement. 1. Restrict prosecutorial discretion to eliminate it as a catch-all excuse for limiting immigration enforcement. 2. Mandate the use of E-Verify for anyone doing business with the government. 3. Designate USIS as intelligence community adjacent, ensuring that it has access to national security and law enforcement databases, which it shouldn't need because it's dealing with individuals, it's not dealing with countries. So that doesn't make any sense. See you later, April. Have a good day. 4. Rescind all memoranda limiting enforcement of immigration laws, including those identifying sensitive zones. 5. End ICE's widespread use of termination and administration closure of cases in immigration courts, averting or curtailing a mass migration event. 1. Provide that whenever the Secretary of Homeland Security determines that an actual or anticipated, by whatever contingents and whatever metric we've decided, mass immigrations of male aliens en route or arriving off the coast of the United States present urgent circumstances requiring an immediate federal response, the security may make, subject to approval of the President, rules and regulations prohibiting in whole or in part the introduction of persons from such countries or places as he or she shall designate in order to avert or curtail such mass migration and for such period of time as is deemed necessary, including through the expulsion of such aliens. Such rule and regulation making shall not be subject to the requirements of the Administrative Procedures Act. I.e., if there's a boat of people that are trying to escape a war-torn country that we have created, as long as they're still in international waters, shoot them down. Send them back in their little boat with nothing. Great. This is, insanity stacked on top of insanity and peppered with extra lunacy. Yes, absolutely. The government is supposed to care about people, by the way. I know it's supposed to prioritize its people, but immigration is good for America and good for Americans and good for business. Everything that they've proposed here is bad for Americans, bad for business, and bad for the people at large. 2. Provide that notwithstanding any other provision of law, when the Secretary makes such a determination and then promulgates, subject to the approval of the President, such rules and regulations, the Secretary shall have the authority to waive all legal requirements of Title 8. That Secretary, in his or her sole discretion, determines are necessary to avert or curtail the mass migration. Sub-regulatory matters. U.S. USIS priorities / structural changes. America needs immigration really badly. Yeah, so does Canada. Does it need to be done well? Yeah. Does it need to be done does it need to be organized? Yes, but it's needed. 1. Ensure that focus is returned to vetting base eligibility of applicants and fraud detection. 2. Realign the fraud detection and national security directorate FDNS to ensure agency-wide consistency on implementation for fraud detection and vetting policies. 3. Review and repeal any internal agency memo that is inconsistent with the priorities described in this chapter. 287G program. Issue a memo prohibiting any jurisdiction that applies from being denied access to the program unless good cause is shown. Homeland Security Investigations HSI priorities. Issue Department Management Directive and ICE companion directive to refocus HSI on immigration offenses and criminal offenses typically associated with immigration, for example, human trafficking. All criminal investigative work without a clear nexus to the border or otherwise to Title 8 should be turned over to the appropriate federal agency. Blackie's warrants. ICE, OPLA, ERO, and HSI should issue joint internal memo on operationalizing Blackie's warrants for immediate use on worksite enforcement and other appropriate investigations and operations. That's cringe, dude. Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. Needed reforms. Ugh. FEMA is the lead federal agency in preparing for and responding to disasters, but it is overtasked, overcompensates for the lack of state and local preparedness and response. That's the point. It's regularly in deep debt because it's not there to make money. What the fuck is wrong with you? After passage of 1988 Stanford Act, the number of declared federal disasters rose dramatically as most disaster costs were shifted from state and local governments to the federal government. In addition, state-friendly FEMA regulations such as per capita indicator failed to maintain the pace of inflation and made it easy to meet disaster declaration thresholds. This combination has left FEMA unprepared in both readiness and funding for the truly catastrophic disasters, whatever that means, in which the services are most needed. Reform FEMA requires a greater emphasis on, because we all know how well Trump and the conservative government, the Republican government in America, handles disasters. Poorly, terribly, awful, F for failure. Requires greater emphasis on federalism and state and local preparedness, leaving FEMA to focus on large, widespread disasters. Under the Stanford Act, FEMA has the authority to adjust the per capita indicator for damages, which creates a threshold under which states and localities are not eligible for public assistance. FEMA should raise the threshold because the per capita indicator has not kept pace with inflation, and this overtime has effectively lowered the threshold for public assistance and caused FEMA's resources to be stretched precariously thin. Hey, Mr. Serious, I was late too. Don't feel too bad. Alternatively, applying a deductible could accomplish a similar outcome while also incentivizing states to take more proactive role in their own preparedness and response capabilities. Why wouldn't you just set a minimum standard for the states? That seems like that would be a better idea. In addition, Congress should change the cost share arrangement so that the federal government covers 25% of the costs for small disasters, with the cost sharing reaching a maximum of 75% for truly catastrophic disasters, defined however we want to define them. By the way, this is basically like the federal government needs to be bigger and a business and make money off of the states, which is not what the federal government is supposed to be doing. FEMA is also responsible for the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP, nearly all of which is issued by the federal government. Washington provides insurance at prices lower than the actuary fair rate, thereby subsidizing flood insurance. Then the flood costs exceed NFIP's revenue. FEMA seeks taxpayer-funded bailouts. But that's the kind of stuff you want bailed out instead of, Boeing or the automotive industry or bankers gambling with taxpayers' money. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? You have money to do that, but you don't have money to do this, to bail out the actual people who have dealt with the catastrophic flood? Suck my dick. God, you people fucking suck. Listen, I'm not good at empathy, but I'm not like this. Current NFIP debt is $20.5 billion, and in 2017, Congress canceled $16 billion in debt when FEMA reached its borrowing authority limit. These subsidies and bailouts only encourage more development in flood zones. Development has to be approved, but okay. Increasing the potential loss to both NFIP and the taxpayer. The NFIP should be wound down and replaced with private insurance, starting with the least risky areas currently identified by the program. Fuck off. Budget issues. FEMA manages all grants for DHS, and these grants have become pork for states, localities, and special interest groups. Pork? Really? Okay. Trump threw paper towel at desperate people in Puerto Rico after the hurricane in 2017. Are they still recovering due to the hack job FEMA did there? Yeah. Hey, has anybody checked in on Flint, Michigan recently? Since 2002, DHS, FEMA, that should be a running point. Like, I feel like that should be a point that the president should be running on and be like, hey, we're going to fix Flint, Michigan. We're going to get all that fucking fixed up. Since 2002, DHS FEMA have provided more than $56 billion in preparedness grants for state, local, tribal, and territorial governments. For fiscal year 2023, which isn't in brackets this time, President Biden requested more than $3.5 billion for federal assistance grants. And how much did you guys say you were spending on the military and wanted to increase it by? Funds provided under these programs do not provide measurable gains for preparedness or resiliency. How about instead of we take some of the budget that's being allocated to Israel weaponry to enable their genocide, we take that money and give it to Flint, Michigan, and let them do whatever they want. Let them reallocate that money and deal with it. No? Yeah, let them do that. Just be like, okay, listen, we're gonna rip everything down. We're gonna put you all up. We're gonna rip everything down. We're gonna rebuild it. We're gonna pull out all the infrastructure. We're gonna re-put the infrastructure in, and this is gonna be the most advanced, technological, awesome town in the whole fucking world. Anyway, make sure you use fungus to dish out and deal out the fucking roadways. Don't build it based off of cars either. That'd be a good idea. Let me do it. I'll do it. Give me all that budget, and I will tear down and rebuild Flint, Michigan for you. I promise I will do a good job. It'll be the best. We'll have the best contractors. We'll have the best people. We'll have the best designers. We'll have the nicest houses. Maybe while I'm doing art, I'll discuss with you how I would build a town and what I would make sure everybody has and what access points. We can build a town together. Funds provided under these programs do not provide measurable gains for preparedness or resiliency. Yes, they do. Rather, more than any objective needs, political interests appear to direct the flow of non-disaster funds. The principles of federalism should be upheld. These indicate that states better understand their unique needs and should bear the costs of their particularized programs. FEMA employees in Washington, D.C. should not determine how billions of federal tax dollars should be awarded to train local law enforcement officers in Texas, harden cybersecurity infrastructure in Utah, or supplement migrant shelters in Arizona. That's why they're grants. Not that the grants are there to give the amount of money to then be determined by the state how to apply it. DHS should not be in the business of handing out federal tax dollars. These grants should be terminated. Accomplishing this, however, will require action by members of Congress who repeatedly vote to fund grants for political reasons. The transition should focus on building resilience and return on investment in line with real threats. You don't get a return on investment in emergency funds. If you do that, cover an episode of Not Just Bike. It dives into city infrastructure and also compares to fake London, Canada. FEMA currently has 4 state confirmed positions. Only the administrator should be confirmed by the Senate. Other personnel leadership needs not to be confirmed by the Senate. Yeah, they really, really don't like that the Senate told them that the people they chose weren't good enough and told them to fuck off with whoever they wanted to appoint. So they're trying to do everything. They're saying like, hey, like, don't make us do that anymore. Additionally, we don't want checks and balances. Let us do whatever we want. Additionally, let us be corrupt as possible so we can put whoever we want in there. Additionally, FEMA's springing cabinet position should be eliminated, as this creates significant unnecessary challenges to the functioning of the whole of the DHS at points in times where coordinated responses are most needed. Yeah, who wants to get approval from people? Ugh. Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA, needed reform. CISA is supposed to have 2 key roles. 1, protection of the federal civilian government networks.gov while coordinating the execution of national cyber defense and sharing information with non-federal and private sector partners. Is that related to Warframe at all? And 2, national coordination of critical infrastructure security and resilience. Yet CISA has rapidly expanded its scope into lanes where it does not belong. The most recent and most glaring example being censorship of so-called misinformation and disinformation. Don't tell Twitter what to do. CISA's funding and resources should align narrowly with the foregoing of two mission requirements. The component's emergency communications and chemical facility anti-terrorism standards, CFATS roles, should be moved to FEMA. Its school security function should be transferred to state homeland security offices. Is that because of all the school shootings? And CISA should refrain from duplicating cybersecurity functions done elsewhere at the Department of Defense, FBI, National Security Agency, and the U.S. Secret Service. Oh. Of the utmost urgency is immediately ending CISA's counter mis/disinformation efforts. Then who's supposed to be in charge of that? The federal government cannot be the arbiter of truth. Oh, nobody's supposed to be in charge of that. Oh, okay. CISA began this work because of the alleged Russian misinformation in the 2016 election. Oh, you mean the established Russian misinformation in the 2016 election? That was established. That wasn't alleged. That was a whole investigation that was confirmed. Which in fact turned out to be a Clinton campaign dirty trick. Oh, sure. The intelligence community, including the NSA or DoD, should counter foreign actors. Okay. At the time of this writing, release of the Twitter files has demonstrated that CISA has devolved into an unconstitutional... You mean that nothing burger? Did Elon ghostwrite this? An unconstitutional censoring of election engineering apparatus of the political left. In any event, the entirety of the CISA Cybersecurity Advisory Committee should be dismissed on day one. Oh, yeah? Oh, you want a citation needed, guys? Do we want a citation needed? Do you guys want a big one? Do you want a big one on a loop? I feel like we need a big one on a loop. Let's go! Bonk! Show the proof it was a dirty trick. Show the proof it was the Clinton administration. Show the proof that it was alleged and didn't actually happen. Show, like, everything. Citation needed for all of this. Why would they not want the Cybersecurity Advisory Committee to be in charge of misinformation from foreign entities in the cyberspace? In charge of that? Why wouldn't they want that? That doesn't make any sense. Alright, I'm gonna make it smaller again. I thought that was pretty good. I'm gonna put it right here because these are the people we're citation needing, so they go right there. There we go. Okay. Let's cancel the CISA. We don't want people to know stuff. Yeah, we want to be able to lie to the American people without any consequences. For election security, CISA should help states and localities. You want to get rid of them. You just said they should all be dismissed in its entirety. And now you're saying for election security, CISA should help states and localities assess whether they have good cyber hygiene in their hardware and software in preparation for an election, but nothing more. What the fuck? What the fuck? You really? Really? This is such like a they're just punching the biggest hole you've ever seen in like information and like warfare of divide and conquer and policy and the American putting the American people at so much risk. What the fuck? This is of value to smaller localities, particularly by flagging who is attacking their websites. CISA should not be significantly involved closer to an election, nor should sorry, give me 1 second, guys. Nor should it participate in messaging or propaganda. Oh, you mean like this document? Sorry, I just gotta go. I need to get some tea and go to the bathroom. I'll be back in 1 second. Ugh, holy fucking shit, dude. My tea is almost done. Oh my god. Welcome back, Athens. Fuck. Please let me be done by 3. Please let me done within a half an hour. I beg of you. This shit is impossible. Unreasonable. Unconscionable. I'm gonna turn a light on. See if that's better. Is that better? I'm like kind of dark. I don't know. Whatever. Ugh. Got my tea. Fucking lying to me? I feel like you're lying to me. It looks all green on my end. Did you mute me by accident? That's very rude. Rude. There's a pencil. Ba-na-na-na-na. Ba-na-na-na-na. Eline's lying to me. Tastes like soaked wood. Oh yeah. Manya bought this for me 2 years ago, I think. My one exploded and stopped working. And then I had like a really questionable way that I was doing it, and she was like, no. So she sent that to me. Oh, you were trying to troll me. Rude! As if this shit isn't bad enough. Like, have mercy. Like, what the hell? This is just... I gotta deal with this, and you're trying to troll me? Like, you're trying to send me into the fetal position? What the fuck's going on? U.S. Coast Guard. USCG. Oh, God. Okay. It's 16 pages. Needed reforms. The U.S. Coast Guard fleet should be sized to the needs of the great power competition, significantly focusing efforts and investment on protecting the U.S. waters, all while seeking to find, where feasible, more economical ways to perform USCG missions. The scope of the Coast Guard's missions needs to be focused on protecting U.S. resources and interests in its home waters, specifically in the executive economic zone 200 miles from offshore. USCG's budget should address the growing demand for it to address the increasing threats from the Chinese fishing fleet in home waters, as well as narcotics and migrant flows in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Doing this will require reversing years of shortfalls and shipbuilding maintenance and upgrading of shore facilities, as well as seeking more cost-effective ship and facility designs. In wartime, the USCG supports the Navy, but has a limited capability and incapacity to support wartime missions outside home waters. Listen, reading out loud is hard, and I'm trying to now go faster. All right? Monty says, hey, I'm in risk management. Trying to get you an asylum. Okay. Chinese fishing fleets in our home waters. Yeah, that's a whole issue, I guess, apparently, allegedly. New policies. The Coast Guard's missions should be scaled down to match congressional budgeting in the long term, with any increased funding going to acquisitions based on an updated fleet mix analysis. The current shipbuilding plan is sufficient based on USCG analysis, and the necessary numbers of planned offshore patrol cutters and national security cutters are not supported by congressional budgets. The Coast Guard should be required to submit to Congress a long-range shipbuilding plan modeled on the Navy's 30-year shipbuilding plan. I would like to remind you, yesterday and prior in this document, they were saying they wanted short-term budgets, not long-term budgets, and now they're demanding long-term. Ideally, this should become part of the Navy plan in a new comprehensive naval long-range shipbuilding plan to ensure better coherency in the service's requirements. Outside of home waters and following the Caribbean and East Pacific, the Coast Guard should prioritize limited resources to the national expansive Pacific waters to counter growing Chinese influence and encroachment. Expansion of facilities in American Samoa, and basing off cutters, there is one clear step in the direction that and should be accelerated, looking to free association states. Palau, the federal state of Micronesia, and the Republic of the Marshall Islands. For enhanced and persistent presence, assuming adequate congressional funding is another such step. The Secretary of the Navy should convene a naval board to review and reset the requirements for the Coast Guard wartime mission support. To inform and validate these updated requirements, the Chief of Naval Operations and the Coast Guard Commandant should execute dedicated annual joint wartime drills focused on USCG's wartime missions in the Pacific. The money for these activities should be allocated from DoD. An interagency wartime coordination office focused on developing and overseeing comprehensive efforts to advance the national maritime interest and increase its military and commercial competitiveness should be established. Given the USCG's history of underfunded missions, if the Coast Guard is to continue to maintain the Arctic mission, money to do so adequately will be required over and above current funding levels. Consideration should be given to shifting the Arctic mission to the Navy. Either way, the Arctic mission should be closely coordinated with our Canadian, Danish, and other allies. Fuck you. Also, side note. Again, they're sticking to this thing that they keep doing, which is anytime they say they want to have a smaller government, they keep expressing ideas that needs a bigger government that spends more money. Just wanted to point that out. I knew how to pronounce Pa'alu until I heard you try. Now my brain forgot how to do it right. That's so sad. Oh no. Sorry. USCG is facing recruitment challenges similar to those faced by the military services. The administration should stop the messaging on wokeness and diversity and focus instead on attracting the best talent for USCG, simultaneously consistent with the Department of Defense. Yeah, but you want to kick out all the gay people, all the trans people, and all the women, and ostensibly make it at least insufferable for women to the point where they're not going to want to join. So you're ostensibly shrinking the number regardless of however many you get in. Anyway, simultaneously consistent with the blah, blah, blah. USCG should also make serious effort to re-vet any promotions and hiring that occurred on the Biden administration's watch, while also re-onboarding any USCG personnel that were dismissed from service for refusing to take the COVID vaccine. Now vaccine is in quotes, so it wasn't a vaccine now? Like, what the fuck? With time in service credited to such returnees. These two steps could be foundational for any improvements in the recruiting process. Sure. Yeah, okay. You want to fill the military with people who refused to follow orders. Good idea. U.S. Secret Service, USSS. Needed reforms. The U.S. Secret Service must be the world's best proactive agency. Currently, the agency is distracted by its dual mission of protection and financial investigations. The result has been a long series of high-profile embarrassments and security failures, perhaps most notably its allowing of the then Vice President-elect Kamala Harris to be inside the Democratic National Committee office on January 6, 2021, while a pipe bomb was outside. Huh? What? That was you. You're the January 6th people. What the fuck? Honestly, it would be embarrassing for the U.S. Secret Service if these motherfuckers were allowed anywhere near the Capitol. Anyway, despite the great size and scope of the January 6th investigation, this high-profile incident of danger to a protectee remains unresolved. The failure of the USSS protective mission are too numerous to list here. A December 2015 bipartisan report from the House Oversight Committee listed dozens of such incidents as well as needed recommendations for reform. This chapter adopts those findings and recommendations in whole, especially the finding that the USSS dual mission structure detracts from the agency's protective capabilities. Okay, so who do you want to do investigations then? At the time of the report, USSS agents spent only 1/3 of their work hours on protection-related activities as opposed to investigative activities. USSS was established initially to investigate counterfeit currency, but its mission has evolved over a decade to prioritize electrical financial crimes. Well, that's still counterfeit, stuff, but sure, yes. For example, as this chapter was being written, all 15 of the USS's most wanted individuals were wanted for financial crimes, many of them international in nature. Notably, the last head Notably, the last head of the agency left not for a protection-related job, but to be the chief of security officer for social media company Snapchat. I mean, that is kind of funny. This is a pattern that has developed over the years, with agents seeking to burnish their online financial crime credentials to secure corporate security jobs. I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes you just want to change a pace, and also sometimes you want to be able to make more money. You mean the report that Trump shredded? Yeah, that one. The vaccine that Trump tried to get credit for? Yeah, that one. Yes. Coupled with some of the lowest morale in the federal government in 2000, after Trump took office, lowest morale? No, couldn't be. Coupled with some of the lowest morale in federal government, the agency has completely lost sight of the primacy of its protective mission. New policies: USSS should be transferred to the Department of Justice and Department of Treasury all investigations that are not related to the protection function. It should begin the logistical operation of closing all fields of office throughout the country and internationally to the extent that they are not taken over by the Treasury or Justice. USSS agencies stationed outside of Washington, D.C. should be transferred to work in immigration and custom enforcement fields offices, where they would continue to be the boots on the ground to follow up on any threat reports throughout the country and liaise with local law enforcement for visits by protectees. Are you fucking serious? So they're just trying to remove any internal third-party investigation and force it to be about foreign affairs and not the crimes that these people are probably committing. Allegedly. The only investigation not related to USSS's protection function that agents should pursue would be directed by HSI and related to trafficking and the financial crimes associated with illegal immigration. Whom are not equipped to deal with these cases? Yes. This is ridiculous. This should include tracing remittance, any funds that are used to pay coyotes or the cartels, and payments by businesses to illegal aliens and all other crimes associated with illegal immigration. You're giving them more to do in a different area? USSS should keep visitor logs for all facilities where the president works or resides. The Biden administration has evaded such transparency, with President Biden spending a historic amount of time for a president at his Delaware residence. You want to do this for Mar-a-Lago? How many Russians were in and out of there, by the way, around the 2016 election? This has left the American people in the dark as to who is influencing the highest levels of their own government. Budget. The suggested reforms would result in a significant USSS budget reduction, primarily because the agency would relinquish dozens of physical offices throughout the U.S. and internationally. Some amount of saving should be used to fix the personnel problem and the recruitment initiatives aimed at individuals who are inclined to join the protection-focused agency. Personnel. As documented extensively in the above-referenced 2015 bipartisan congressional report, low morale and high turnover are key drivers to the USS's problem. With their mission focus on protection, agents would no longer spend the bulk of their time developing unrelated skill sets. Instead, USSS agents, who wants redundancy, and capable agents, which you already said that you wanted in a different area. Agents could hone their protection skills, whatever those are, and pursue a protection career path in the agency rather than quickly leaving USSS for high-paying corporate security jobs. Then maybe you should pay them more. You want to keep people? You already suggested that earlier. The Uniform Division, UD, of USSS requires a significant staffing increase. As documented in the bipartisan report, understaffing results is unpredictable and long hours, which in turn result in high turnover, which only compounds the problem. Another key issue that UD officers lack the ability to enforce criminal laws outside the immediate vicinity of the White House. As the District of Columbia is a federal jurisdiction and currently is beholden to the trend of progressive pro-crime policies, UD officers should enforce all applicable laws. The result would be to allow UD officers to gain more law enforcement experience and active credential that would improve morale. Sure. Transportation Security Administration, the TSA. The TSA model is costly and unwisely makes TSA both the regulator and the regulated organization responsible for screening operations. As part of an effort to shrink federal bureaucracies and bring private sector know-how to government programs, TSA is ripe for reform. The U.S. should look to the Canadian and European private models of providing aviation screening manpower to lower TSA costs while maintaining security. Actually, the Canadian TSA is not that bad. At least in my experience, I haven't had a hard time with them, so... I'm tiny, white, and Canadian, though, so I don't know how it applies for, like, somebody that's not me trying to go over. So, legalizing weed, pro-criminal policies. Yeah, good question. Next question. Until it is privatized, the TSA should be treated as a national security provider and its workforce should be de-unionized immediately. Again, anti-union. TSA should privatize the screening function by expanding the current screening partnership program, or the SPP, to all airports. TSA would turn screening operations over to airports that would choose security contract. Yeah, that's just Boeing with that and Air Canada. That meets TSA regulations and would oversee the test airports for compliance. Alternatively, it could adopt the Canadian-style system, turning over screening operations to a new government corporation that contracts screening services to private contractors. Contractors would bid to provide their services to a set of... Aren't we supposed to be communist up here? Tiny White Canadian sounds like a sitcom. It does. It does. That takes place in, like, Northern Ontario. It's kind of like Corner Gas or Letterkenny. Corner Gas is just like the PG version of Letterkenny. Alternatively, they could adopt Canadian style, blah, 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 screening process. Contractors would bid to provide blah, 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 blah. Likely with around 10 regions nationally. TSA would continue to set security regulations and test airports for compliance, and the new corporation would establish any operating procedures or customer service standards. With either model, the intelligence function for domestic travel patterns should remain with the U.S. government. So you don't actually want to privatize it. The federal government could expect to save 15% to 20% from the existing aviation screening budget, but saving could be significantly larger. Service to travel should also improve. Service to travelers. Oh yeah. Also, our TSA equivalent is not privatized. Correct. Management Directorate, MGMT. The Management Directorate. The Management Directorate is unnecessarily large because each individual component also maintains its own respective management office. Too much overlap and red tape exists between headquarters, HQ. Thanks. And components with regards to such functions as hiring, information technology, and procurement. Finance is unique, given that HQ needs to address reprogramming and component budgets need to roll up into all department budgets. The directorate requires intense reform and specifics of which should be further assessed given its expansive nature. I didn't have a problem with this word earlier, and now I am, and it's because I've been live for nearly 2.5 hours. Front office, FO, immediately place a small team of advisors with a deep understanding of operational management, but who have some experience in government because they will need to understand the nuance of the reduction in force, RIF, appropriations hurdles when dealing with U.S. government reorganization, etc. To sit in the MGMT FO, reporting to the secretary, ultimately either S1 or S2, which they haven't actually properly identified. One of these advisors should understand U.S. government employment law and and be prepared to relocate personnel and downside offices accordingly. This includes, what about upsizing offices? Anyway, this includes reverting to the original understanding of the function of individuals appointed to the senior executive service, competent managers who can work capably with any subject matter and in any location. Why is this here? In this part of the whatever. Over the first few months of the administration, the advisor's role should be to assess what structural and procedural changes are appropriate. They should dissect the current standing management directives and the approval process in place to implement and or change them. Office of the Chief Human Capital Officers, processes and procedures, hurdles to the office of the Chief Procurement Officers, procurement of innovation technology and the facilities plan, including the consolidation into the St. Elizabeth's campus. They should also be prepared to help implement any end to unionization of DHS components and in response to an executive order pursuant of 5 USC 7103 or 7103. They just want to deunionize everything because fuck people. Oh, come on, Chesh, I know this is causing brain rot and we're all losing IQ, but you're getting into errantory. Oh, come on. Rude. That's mean. That was just mean. Why would you say that? After all the work I put in, this is what I get. Office of the Chief Financial Officer, OCFO. DHS responsibilities to work with Congress have been split between the Office of Legislation Affairs of the OLA and OCFO. OLA deals with the authorizing committees and policy issues. And OCFO works with the appropriate committees on budget planning, execution, and reprogramming. This split creates communication and visibility issues within the DHS and inconsistency in answers to Congress. This is an issue not only within the HQ model, but also throughout the components. You know, they bitch a lot about the Congress. I don't think any of the people that actually wrote about this are actually, were in Congress at all. I'm on page 192 out of 920 in the PDF. In the actual document, I am on page 160. DHS and this is not only an issue within the HQ model, but also throughout the components. Either appropriation personnel should be moved to OLA, and there should be a dotted line reporting structure to OCFO, or a policy that OLA personnel must be included on communications to Congress should be implemented. To avoid answer shopping by congressional staff, particularly appropriation staff, all budget communications from the OCFO, including from the CFO him/herself, should first be provided to the director of OLA to ensure consistency of information, messaging, and answers. This may be deemed awkward given the OCFO is a Senate-confirmed position, but it is necessary to avoid inaccuracies and inconsistencies in messaging. Federal Protective Service, FPS. The FPS, yes, that ellipses? Correct, that is the correct response. FPS needs federal agents to develop, share, and receive operational information and maintain direct contact with the Secretary in midst of heightened threats. Before summer of 2020, civil unrest positioning FPS under MGMT was justified, but given the current climate, there should not be reporting through MGMT. This may be especially problematic if management directorate under secretary lacking law enforcement or military experience is in place when situations like summer of 2020 arises. There's a severe lack of pop-out pictures in this book. Honestly, I do think this would have benefited from a couple of flowcharts to and a little bit of image description, because some of the stuff they're describing is really hard to conceptualize. Cliff Notes version. Is real bad. Fascism trying to be dictatorship. Yuck. Hates everyone. FPS should report to the Secretary as other components, example of FLETC, do. This would add little to the secretary's current burden unless or until civil unrest arises, at which point reporting to the secretary creates a direct line between the primary DHS decision maker, S1 or S2, and FPS director. This is very much preparing like a group of yes men to be prepared for wartime, but they're describing wartime as China wartime, and kind of what they're setting up is more like a civil war time. Anyway. Reading operational communication. I know, right? Reading operational communication, there should be information sharing mandates, MOAs. One of the reasons that I'm going through this is because as much as I could just TLDR this for you, I think it's important that people have access to actually reading through the entire thing, because as much as I can say that, it really doesn't get across how bad this fucking document is. Which are applicable under specific circumstances where federal facilities are involved. Between FPS and the U.S. Marshals, U.S. Park Police, and FBI, agreements with U.S. Capitol Police and Supreme Court Police should also be considered, but it is noteworthy that those entities are jurisdictionally outside of the executive branch. Office Strategy, Police, and Plans, PLCY. Department level reforms, PLCY should perform a complete inventory analysis and reevaluation of the department's domestic terrorism line of efforts to ensure that they are consistent with the president's priorities, congressional authorization, and Americans' constitutional rights. I should have kept a counter for how many times they're demanding like an audit or something like that, or reviews, because I don't know who they're getting to do these reviews. PLCY should likewise do a complete inventory analysis and evaluation of any of the department's work in coordination with social media outlets to censor or otherwise change or affect America's speech. PLCY should comprehensively report on and publish this history in full so that the American people can know the facts. The department should remove all personnel who participated in any of this activity. Oh, okay. The department has significant authority to and budget to provide grants for various purposes. This effort is diffused across components and lacks a central policy, thought, and coordination. PLCY should set a department-wide policy that establishes how granting choices are being made and is consistent with the president's priorities. PLCY should clear all granting decisions to ensure that they are consistent with the new policy. Oh boy. PLCY-wide reforms. PLCY should work with Congress to streamline the department's reporting requirements. Period. Because, take a drink. There has not been a departmental reauthorization bill, and these requirements have been added piecemeal over 2 decades. They significantly overlap and even conflict, wasting resources and distracting from the department's mission. PLCY should seek the elimination of the quadrennial Homeland Security Review. Issue area reforms. PLCY should bolster its immigration statistics program and make it the one-stop shop for a timely production of all department immigration statistics and analysis. Yeah, that's great. You don't want things from multiple sources. Would hate to verify the things we want to put forward after we fired everybody who disagreed with us and hired everybody that we just thought would agree. Office of Intelligence and Analysis, A&I. The Office of Intelligence and Analysis should be eliminated, both because it has not added value and because it has been weaponized for domestic political purposes. We audited ourselves. Yeah. The Intelligence Committee, IC, already provides raw intelligence to DHS components. In addition, the FBI, National Counterterrorism Center, and other agencies that you were all talking about defunding were necessary already. And other agencies where necessary. I'm losing my mind. And other agencies, where necessary, already provide holistic threat assessment products to federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial governments, as well as to the private sector entities at both the classified and unclassified levels where appropriate. A&I's work as an interlocutor between the IC and the DHS components, individual intelligence operations, and the other hand of the government and the private sector on the other, as well as in between the IC and the components, is at best duplicative. Building in redundancies is important. I will say it again. And you're already talking about removing some of these things from those areas and stacking them with more work. So you're effectively like gutting everything. Anyway, at worst, it is used and discussed in the media as a political tool, resulting in more harm than good to the U.S. government and IC right large. The Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, which is not a member of the IC, should create cyber intelligence products in a collaborative fashion with the National Security Agency and U.S. Cyber Command. Such efforts would lead to a timelier, usable, classified, and unclassified product for stakeholders that exceed the quality and capability of INC's efforts. The same principle applies to other components as well as CBP, TSA, etc. All have their own intelligence operations and are better suited with their subject matter experts to make their own assessments. Oh, now you want experts again. This was all over the place. Dear Lord. It's weird listening to an entire group of fucking people describe how they want the federal government, to be a for-profit business. Which, I mean, it makes sense given their credentials and where they're coming from and their perspective, but doesn't make sense for a government of United States. The National Operations Center. Why do they even need to make money? Where's the money gonna go? Like, what are you planning on doing with it? Enriching yourselves? Probably. Paying off all of Trump's legal fees? Probably. Better, because it's not like they're going to give it back to the people. It's not like people are going to get taxed less because they're spending less in the government. Like, that's never going to happen. The National Operations... Hi. Hello. Welcome to the suffering. The National Operations Center, or NOC, NOC, within the Office of Operations Coordination, or OPS, should absorb those select INC functions and tactically proficient personnel that need to be maintained. For example, technical support to the National Vetting Center. Oh, so they do a job. You just want to give that job to somebody else without paying them more. The remainder of INC should be eliminated. The OPS entity should maintain IC status, and the only intelligence mission set should be to provide situational awareness and dissemination of operational information or raw intelligence, no analysis or products, at classified and unclassified levels to executive leadership across the department, not outside the DHS. So you're going to rely on them to do the analysis themselves? That's a lot of work. Office of the General Counsel, OGC, needed reforms. OGC should advise principals on how DHS can execute its missions within the law instead of advising principals as to why they cannot execute regulations, policies, and programs. Instead of each component's chief counsel reporting to the headquarters general counsel with a solid line, and indirectly to his or her component head with a dotted line, the accountability should be reversed. Due to the different missions throughout the department, the components can be better managed, and the legal issues of their specific mission and headquarters can. Thus, the chief counsel or equivalent of each component should report directly to the component head, report indirectly to the DHS general counsel, and be accountable to the component head. The report of the general counsel is to ensure consistency of advice across DHS. OGC should, even just one of these policy changes would be massive and a huge undertaking for any singular government, let alone doing all of this. And a lot of this they're demanding happens on day one, and it's like, that's not going to happen. OGC should hire significantly more Schedule C political appointees, making government bigger, who in turn supervise career staff and manage their output. DHS missions is politically charged, and the legal function cannot be allowed to thwart the administrator's agenda by providing stilted or erroneous legal positions and decision-making. Yeah, we don't want the POTUS to have to follow the law or anything. OGC should serve as the center of the response to the legal challenges facing the department to ensure a streamlined, consistent response to a litany of issues facing the department. It is important to ensure consistency across all potential legal positions taken by the department, including those that arise in litigation, congressional oversight, and inquiries received from the Inspector General, U.S. Government Accountability Office of the GAO, and Congressional Research Service, and pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. OGC should invest in an e-director discovery software and contrast and contract with a vendor to manage the department's e-discovery. Okay. This would be beneficial both in litigation and in responding to congressional oversight. Removing delays in e-discovery processing would also reduce insurance of subpoenas. So reduce the issuance of subpoenas to the department and the generation of negative press for the administration that comes from delayed responses. The old practice of relying on executive security taskings to pull documents from congressional requests does not work. It is slow. The metrics for what documents are gathered and how are unclear, and the components do not gather responsive material in an effective manner. Document gathering should come from the Office of the Chief Information Officer or a relevant technological element within the department that can pull responsive communications quickly. Office of Legislation Affairs, OLA, Office of Public Affairs, OPA, and Office of Partnership and Engagement, OPE. I feel like we're back to we're just fucking repeating ourselves. DHS's external communication function should be consolidated and reformed so that the president's agenda can be implemented more effectively. The Office of Partnership and Engagement should be merged into the Office of Public Affairs. In many cabinet agencies, outreach and companies and partners organizations is similarly performed by the Office of Public Affairs. This would also accomplish, again, sometimes brackets, sometimes not. This would also accomplish the need for DHS organizational and management reform to decrease the number of direct response reports to the Secretary. After we've added a bunch of reports that the Secretary has to analyze themselves, we're going to start doing less, I guess. I don't know. Both public and legislative affairs staff in the components should report directly to their respective headquarters equivalent. This would help to avoid failure by the department to speak with one voice. It would also allow the component staff to perform more efficiently, overseen by expert managers in their trade. Oh, experts. Imagine that. Imagine having no way of going over someone's helmet. It would also allow the component staff to perform more effectively, overseen by expert managers in their trade. This would allow the DHS to respond to crisis effectively by shifting staff as needed to the most pressing issues and better use underutilized staff at less effective components. Only political appointees, OLA, should interact directly with congressional staff on all inquiries, including budget and appropriations matters, to prevent congressional staff from answer shopping among HQ, OLA, and GHS, OCFO, and components. DHS Legislative Affairs appropriation staff should be moved from MGMT, OCFO to OLA. Regarding components, budget appropriation staff should move from component budgeting offices to component legislative affairs office. Remember I said that this needed flowcharts? Starting a paragraph with because. Take a drink. Because dozens of congressional committees and subcommittees have either have or claim to have jurisdiction over some DHS functions, DHS staff from the Secretary on down spend so much time responding to congressional hearings and briefing request letters and questions for the record that they are left with little time to do their assigned job of protecting the homeland. As they treat Congress like they're fucking... like they're old people calling in to complain at customer service. The next president should reach an agreement with congressional leadership to limit committee jurisdiction to one authorizing committee and one appropriations committee in each chamber. If congressional leadership will not limit their committee's jurisdiction over DHS should identify one authorizing and appropriations committee in each chamber and answer only to it. To focus more precisely on DHS mission, OLA staff should also identify outgoing and needless congressional reporting requirements and notify Congress that DHS will cease reporting on such matters. For other congressional reports, OLA should implement a sunset date so that Congress must regularly demonstrate the need for specific data. In both OPA and OLA, the change in mission and culture is needed. The clients of both components are the president and the secretary. See, they call them clients, not the media, external organization, or Congress. For fuck's sakes. The OPA and OLA should change from being compliance correspondents for outside entities airing grievances, see what I tell you, to serving as messengers and advocates for the president and the secretary. Office of Operations Coordinations, OPS. OPS was originally conceived by then-Secretary Jay Johnson as an entity tasked with coordinating cross-DHS assets as an as-needed basis using joint operations approach. This role is particularly challenging because of the disruptive nature of missions set across the DHS. OPS should absorb a very small number of tactical intelligence professionals from INA, and the rest of INA is shut down. Such intelligence officers would be subordinate elements within OPS placed with the National Operations Center. The intelligence officers would provide tactical intelligence support for upcoming or ongoing operations in addition to liaisoning with their agency/component counterparts. There would be no strategic intelligence analysis done as part of the OPS or its new INA sub-element. What the fuck? In addition to facilitating all of DHS coordination on a task-by-task basis, OPS would be responsible for outgoing situational awareness for the Secretary and Deputy Secretary. In addition to long-term staffing, OPS would have cycling billets from each of the major agencies and components to facilitate its most effective working relationship across DHS. Office for Civil Rights and Civil Liberties, CRCL, and Privacy Office, PRIV, PRIV. The Homeland Security Act established that only officers of CRCL, not an office. What? The Homeland Security Act established only an officer of CRCL, not an office. Oh, just one guy. Just one guy has to deal with all of the civil rights and civil liberties. Okay, that's reasonable. Oh, for fuck's sakes. The only substantive function of Congress then assigned to the officer was to review and assess information alleging abuses of civil rights. Since then, Congress and CRCL itself has significantly expanded. Yeah, no shit. The CRCL's scope and size well beyond its original intent for or helpful purpose. CRCL now operates and views itself as a quasi-DHS Office of Inspector General. This results in a considerable waste of limited component resources, which are routinely tasked to address redundant, overly burdensome, and uninformed demands from RCL. It is therefore important to recalibrate RCL's scope and reach. The organizational structure of both RCL and the Privacy Office should be changed to ensure proper alignment with the department's mission. The Office of General Counsel should absorb both the CRCL's and Privy necessary functions. Oh yeah. And staff. Although the CRCL, Jesus fucking Christ, officer of the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, or FOIA, officer/privacy officer, are statutory. Their offices are not mandatory. The CRCL and Privy Office, the Prive Office, Prive, there's no Y at the end of that. The Prive Office officers and employees should report to the Deputy General Counsel, who would be a political appointee. The CRCL officer should focus on equal employment opportunity, EEO, compliance, and the civil liberties function, and investigate matters only within headquarters or support components. Operational components, civil liberties officers should investigate incidences regarding their own agencies. CRCL officers should ensure that all civil liberties or civil rights complaints are sent to the Office of the Inspector General, the OIG, for review. If the OIG chooses not to investigate, the CRCL officers should only provide supportive information on possible courses of action for complaints. So, as much as we're going to restrict people's rights in the military, fuck you, there's no way to go over our helmets. The Prive officer and FOIA officer should focus on FOIA, privacy complaint policy, and privacy incident response. The Deputy General Counsel should provide guidance to the DHS leadership regarding privacy compliance and privacy incident response. To ensure that the only U.S. persons and lawful permanent residents are provided protections as required by the Privacy Act, all DHS insurance should be updated to reflect the DHS that the DHS protects the privacy of individuals as required by the Privacy Act, bracket, U.S. persons and lawful permanent residents, end bracket. So you get, like I said, if you're an immigrant or you're a contracted employee coming into America, you don't get privacy. Go fuck yourself. How do we go ludicrous speed? I'm going as fast as I can. I'm sorry. The ludicrous speed is just taking this document and lighting it on fucking fire, launching it into the sun where it belongs. The Judicial Redress of Act of 2015 and any U.S. European Union Data Protection and Privacy Agreement. Because, take a drink, I just did, so, you know. The lack of public trust in the Office of Intelligence and Analysis, CRCL, and PRIVE staff should no longer review intelligence products or provide guidance on that intelligence product or reports. A consistent, clear, and singular message is necessary for DHS's mission. Therefore, all communications and or meetings with any federal, state, local, or non-government group should be limited to the Deputy General Counsel. So nobody's allowed to get any information. We want transparency, but we don't want anybody to know anything outside of what we want them to know. And also, we want to remove any situation where we are allowed to put out disinformation, or anybody's allowed to put out disinformation without any actual proper, like, responsibility for that information. That's fucking ridiculous. In addition to giving a narrow scope of work, OGC should disband the outside advisory boards of more than 50 working groups within the CRCL and PRIVE currently participate. Finally, CRCL and PRIVE should no longer issue bulletins or procedurals. No, periodicals. Periodicals. There we go. I got there. Office of the Immigration Detention Ombudsman, OIDO, and Office of Citizenship and Immigration Service Ombudsman, CISOMB. Why is this in bold? OIDO, the Office of Immigration Detention Ombudsman, should be eliminated. This requires a statutory change in Section 106 of the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2020. OIDO was designed to create another impediment to detention, through an additional layer of so-called oversight. Several agencies already perform detention oversight. Redundancy, to make sure there's no corruption and problems. ICE conducts internal audits. Yeah, they audit themselves, guys. We shouldn't be auditing them again. They audited themselves and they said there was no problem. What's the issue? Several agencies already blah, 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 blah. ICE conducts internal audits of facilities and investigates compliance against ICE agents through the Office of Professional Responsibility. Similarly, CBP accepts individual complaints regarding facilities throughout the Joint Intake Center. Yeah, it is literally, we audited ourselves and found no problem. And manages complaints against agents through the OPR. In addition, CRCL, OIG, GAO, and Congress all perform detention oversight. These multiple bodies place unimaginable and unreasonable burdens on ICE to manage several sometimes inconsistent audits/inspections at the same time. Bro, you put kids in cages. Fuck off. If OIDO remains the DHS component, the Secretary should immediately issue a directive stripping CRCL of its immigration portfolio. OIDO is in a better position to, with dedicated resources and immigration experts. Oh, experts again. Hi, Clifford. Heathen, sheathens, in-betweens, and assorted goblin kind, lend me your thumbs. So, thumbs up, thank you. Like, share, subscribe, all that shit. What fuckery is afoot, and why is Chesh such a glutton for punishment reading all this? It's important! Allowing both offices to conduct detention oversight is duplicative and wasteful. No, it's not. The Secretary should conduct a thorough review of the effectiveness of Directive 0810.1, which is widely interpreted as requiring wholesale referral of cases to OIG. In reality, OIG investigates only a small fraction of them and often sits on cases for longer than the 5-day window specified in the directive. Meanwhile, the other agencies await in limbo to execute their duties. CISOMB, the Office of Citizenship and Immigration Office's Ombudsman, should be eliminated. The DHS bureaucracy is too large and the Secretary has too many direct reports. And you want to get rid of the analysis and make them analyze it themselves. Like, what the fuck? CISOMB's policy functions can be performed, brackets, and sometimes already are, and bracket, by OIG and GAO. The specialized casework The specialized casework can be moved to the USIS as a special unit, much like the IRS taxpayer advocate. This would require the statutory change to Section 452 of the Homeland Security Act of 2002. If CISOMB continues and DHS as a DHS component, a policy should be issued that prohibits CISOMB from assisting illegal aliens to obtain benefits. Why? Currently, because if they're doing it legally, it shouldn't be an issue. Currently, approximately 15 to 20% of CISOMB's workload consists of helping DACA or DACA applicants obtain renewed benefits, including work authorization. If they have work authorization, they're not illegal, you fuckheads. You fucking absolute morons. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. Fuck you. Fuck you.
It's stupid. I disagree infinitely about the way that was dumb, and I hate it. And I hate it.
And I hate it. Fuck. In addition, the government should be a neutral adjudicator, not an advocate for illegal aliens. Agency relationships. It is critical that that's stupid. That's dumb, and I don't care. Fuck off. That was dumb. Agency relationships. I'm not going into why and how that's stupid because I'm going to be here forever. Agency relationships. It is critical to the achievement of the president's policy objectives that all agencies and departments touching immigration policy work in sync with one another. While there are numerous areas in which such cooperation is critical, immigration has proven to be the most difficult. Accordingly, several objectives will be necessary for each of the following departments. The Department of Health and Human Resources agree to move the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR, to DHS, or alternatively implement an aggressive and regular effort by the Secretary of HHS to ensure that ORR is fully pursuing presidential objectives in support of DHS. Department of Defense. Assist in aggressively building the border wall system on American southern border. Additionally, explicitly acknowledge and adjust personnel and priorities to participate actively in the defense of Americans' borders, including using military personnel and hardware to prevent illegal crossings between port of entry and channel all cross-borders traffic to legal ports of entry. Department of Justice. Agree to move the Executive Office for Immigration Review and the Office of Immigration Litigation to DHS, and or alternatively to treat the administrative law judges, immigration judges and Board of Immigration Appeals as national security personnel, decertify their union, and move to increase hiring significantly to enable the process of more immigration cases. Department of State. Allow DHS to lead international engagement in the Western Hemisphere on issues of security and migration. Additionally, quickly and aggressively address recalcitrant countries' failure to accept deportees by imposing stiff sanctions until deportees are in fact accepted for return, not just promised to be taken. Department of House and Urban Development. Ensure that only U.S. citizens and lawful permanent residents utilize or occupy federally subsidized housing. Oh, get fucked, I guess. Department of Education. Deny loan access to those who are not U.S. citizens or lawful permanent residents, and deny loan access to students at schools that are provide in-state tuition to illegal aliens. What the fuck? Oh my fucking god. No, you're good, Clifford. You're good. I was just teasing back. Department of Labor. Eliminate two of 4 lowest wage levels for foreign workers. What? Department of Treasury. Implement all necessary regulations both to equalize taxes between American citizens and working visa holders to provide DHS with all tax information of illegal aliens as expeditiously as possible. Intelligence community. Cooperate in the shrinking or elimination of the I&A role in the IC while replacing it with the CBP and HSI representation to the IC. Author's note, I had the honor of coordinating the effort of the expert listed as contributors to this book, nearly all of whom have spent more time inside or interacting with the Department of Homeland Security than myself. Go figure. I wrote only a small portion of this chapter and relied on the contributors' experience and expertise to give the chapter both its depth and policy impact. No views expressed herein should be attributed to any singular contributor. And citations. Well, we made it. 3 hours. Faster than last time. I'll give it that. I'm not reading through these. I'm just showing them on screen so you guys can check these out as needed. These are the citations. Thank you for joining me. This was awful. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to do some stuff. I'll be back at like 6 maybe or 7 to do artwork. I'll be back at 6 to do artwork because I got D&D tonight around 8:30ish. Maybe. We'll see if we're playing or not. I don't know for sure. If we're not playing, I'll just do art longer. So if you're interested in art and want to talk and chat about things that are a little bit more chill and less aggressive than this, join me over on Twitch. If you're a supporter, thank you so much. Your names are featured up here and I really appreciate it. I have Vic Mignogna stuff planned coming up soon. So if you want Lolcow Mondays, which is called Moo Mondays, that's on Monday. So I'll be back with more of this tomorrow and we're going to be on page 203. Congratulations on everybody making it to chapter 6. Hooray! Department of State. Yay! We made it to 6. Woo! Good job, everybody. Ow. I'm getting the fuck out of here. I was here like at least a half an hour to an hour longer than I wanted to be. But hey, you know. D&D, I thought you were part of Star Trek. That hasn't started yet. That's not until later. And that's on Sundays. The one I'm talking about is one that I play with friends. It's an offline game. Thank you so much for supporting either monetarily or by liking and sharing or hanging out with me in chat or coming to see art. That's a great way to come and support me. Come and watch art that's not this shit. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As painful as all this is. I know. I'm sorry. We'll do more of it tomorrow. And one day we'll be done reading it. That's why I'm doing so much of it, to try and get all of it done. And then once all of it's done, we're going to be able to start looking up the citations on the wall. And this might actually be a little bit more fun and educational, except I'm not going to be happy doing this either. It's going to be awful. I hate everything. Can I go home now? Yay. Anyway. Oh, sorry. Is it Fridays? Did I say Sundays? Sorry, Fridays. Sundays is my other at-home D&D game. I'm sorry, I'm getting myself confused. 6 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, I should be back in about an hour or two. So I'm going to aim for 6. So, no one's allowed to be happy. Thanks, Obama. Yeah, what the fuck, Obama? Why didn't you codify more shit so that way this wouldn't be a problem? I have fun welcoming some American refugees running away from this shit in the near future. I don't mind. I'm fine with that. Thanks for joining me. I'll be back with more of this tomorrow, hopefully at 12:30, and I'll try not to be late tomorrow. I'm gonna go get a snack. Have a good day, everybody. Bye-bye.